The massive Daxamite spaceship looms in Earth's orbit, a harbinger of interstellar breeding that sends shockwaves through humanity. As the alien vessel casts its shadow over the planet, global panic erupts. Screens worldwide flicker to life, broadcasting an urgent message from the extraterrestrial visitors. People of Earth, a deep otherworldly voice resonates. We come seeking salvation. Our species faces extinction due to a genetic flaw. We cannot reproduce with our own kind. We propose an interspecies breeding program to save our race. The declaration leaves the world reeling. Emergency sirens blare as world leaders scramble to convene an urgent summit. In Washington, D.C., frantic discussions unfold behind closed doors. The fate of two species hangs in the balance. Amidst the chaos, 28-year-old geneticist Kevin Baker receives a classified call. The U.S. government recruits him for a critical mission: join a scientific team to study Daxamite biology. Kevin's expertise in human genetics makes him the ideal candidate for this unprecedented task. Days later, Kevin stands in a high-security facility, heart racing as he prepares for his first encounter with the aliens. The airlock hisses open, revealing a sight that takes his breath away. Nova, a 9-foot-tall female Daxamite scientist, steps forward. Her towering form and alien features cause nearby humans to recoil instinctively. But not Kevin. Where others see a monstrous giant, he perceives breathtaking beauty. Nova's iridescent skin shimmers under the harsh laboratory lights. Her large, expressive eyes meet his gaze, radiating intelligence that transcends species barriers. "Welcome, Dr. Baker." Nova's melodic voice sends a shiver down Kevin's spine. "I look forward to our collaboration." As they begin their work on genetic compatibility, Kevin finds himself drawn to Nova's brilliant mind. Their discussions range from complex DNA structures to the philosophical implications of interspecies breeding. Hours fly by unnoticed as they lose themselves in scientific discourse. Kevin's male colleagues watch their interactions with a mix of fear and disgust. Whispers circulate about the unnatural closeness between human and alien. But Kevin pays them no mind, too engrossed in the fascinating world Nova represents. During a late-night lab session, Kevin and Nova find themselves alone. The air grows thick with unspoken tension. Nova leans down, her face inches from Kevin's. Their eyes lock, an electric current seeming to pass between them. Kevin's heart pounds as he tilts his head upward, lips parting slightly. Just as they're about to kiss, the lab door slides open. They jump apart, the moment shattered. But the seed of attraction has been planted, destined to grow into something that will shake both their worlds. Word of their budding relationship spreads like wildfire. Humans and Daxamites alike react with shock and outrage. Kevin's superiors warn him to maintain professional boundaries. Nova faces ostracism from her own people for considering a human mate. Yet in secret, Kevin and Nova continue to explore their feelings. Late-night vid calls and clandestine meetings fuel their growing bond. They make plans to attempt breeding, fully aware of the monumental implications. If successful, their union could save an entire species from extinction and usher in a new era of human-alien relations. As Kevin prepares to defy societal expectations and biological barriers, he knows the stakes couldn't be higher. The fate of two worlds rests on his ability to breed with the tall alien girl no one else dared to approach. With determination in his heart and Nova by his side, Kevin steps forward into uncharted territory, ready to make history. The secret meetings and clandestine vid calls between Kevin and Nova couldn't remain hidden forever. As word of their relationship spread, it ignited a firestorm of controversy that swept across both human and Daxamite societies. The U.S. government, recognizing the potential diplomatic implications, swiftly intervened. Within days, Kevin found himself boarding a private jet bound for Nevada. Nova followed in a specially designed Daxamite transport, her towering form barely fitting through the aircraft's doors. As they flew over the desert landscape, Kevin's mind raced with a mixture of excitement and trepidation. The facility that greeted them was a marvel of human and Daxamite engineering. Nestled in a remote valley, its gleaming structures seemed to rise organically from the rugged terrain. As Kevin and Nova stepped into their new home, They were met by a small team of scientists, including the renowned Dr. Marcus Stern. "Welcome to Project Genesis," Dr. Stern said, his voice clipped and professional. "I hope you understand the gravity of what we're attempting here." Kevin nodded, feeling the weight of expectations settling on his shoulders. He glanced at Nova, who stood tall and composed beside him, her iridescent skin shimmering under the harsh desert sun. The first few days were a whirlwind of activity. Kevin and Nova were subjected to a battery of tests and examinations, their bodies scrutinized down to the cellular level. Dr. Stern hovered over every procedure, his skepticism evident in the furrow of his brow and the tightness of his lips. "The physiological differences are even more pronounced than we anticipated," Dr. Stern muttered as he reviewed their latest test results. "The chances of successful breeding are, well, let's just say I wouldn't bet on it." Kevin felt a flare of irritation at the older scientist's dismissive tone. He was about to respond when Nova placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, her touch instantly calming him. "We understand the challenges, Dr. Stern," Nova said, her melodic voice filling the room. "But we believe in the potential of our research." As they settled into their new routine, Kevin and Nova faced unexpected difficulties. Simple tasks like sharing a meal became complex logistical challenges. Nova's massive form dwarfed the human-sized furniture, forcing the facility's engineers to scramble for custom solutions. One evening, as they attempted to work side by side in the lab, Kevin found himself straining to reach equipment on a high shelf. Nova effortlessly lifted him, her strong arms encircling his waist. For a moment, they stayed like that, bodies pressed together, the air between them charged with unspoken desire. "I think we need to talk about this," Kevin said softly as Nova set him down. They retreated to their private quarters, a specially designed space that accommodated both their needs. As the door sealed behind them, Kevin felt a surge of nervous energy. "Nova, I want to try," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Nova's large eyes widened, understanding immediately what he meant. She nodded, a mix of excitement and apprehension on her alien features. Their first attempt at physical intimacy was awkward and somewhat painful for both of them. Kevin winced as Nova's powerful limbs accidentally knocked him off balance, while Nova struggled to contain her strength, afraid of hurting her smaller partner. Afterward, they lay side by side on the oversized bed, a palpable sense of disappointment hanging in the air. "Perhaps Dr. Stern is right," Kevin said, unable to keep the frustration from his voice. "Maybe this is impossible." Nova turned to face him, her expression fierce. "No," she said firmly. "We will find a way. Our minds are compatible. We will make our bodies follow suit." Her willpower reignited Kevin's dedication. They threw themselves into their research with renewed vigor, spending long hours in the lab searching for a solution. Outside the facility's walls, the world reacted to news of their relationship with a mixture of fascination and revulsion. Protests erupted in major cities, with signs bearing slogans like, "Keep Earth Human" and "Embrace Our Cosmic Neighbors." Security around the facility tightened as a radical anti-alien group attempted to breach the perimeter. Kevin watched from a reinforced window as armored vehicles rolled in, transforming their scientific haven into a fortress. Despite the external pressures, Kevin and Nova made a breakthrough in their genetic research. Late one night, as they pored over data from their latest experiments, Kevin let out a whoop of excitement. "Look at this," he said, pointing to a complex genetic sequence on his screen. "If we can modify human sperm cells to express this protein complex, they might be compatible with Daxamite egg cells." Nova leaned in close, her eyes widening as she grasped the implications. "Kevin," she breathed, "this could be it." As they prepared for their first official breeding attempt, the atmosphere in the facility grew tense. Dr. Stern insisted on a rigorous series of medical examinations and psychological evaluations. "We need to be certain you're both fully aware of the risks," he said, his voice stern as he reviewed their latest test results. Nova's research partner Zara watched the proceedings with worried eyes. "Nova," she said quietly during a rare moment alone, "are you sure about this? The physical toll on your body could be severe." Nova met her friend's gaze steadily. "I am sure, Zara. This is bigger than just me or Kevin." It's about the future of both our species. As the day of the breeding attempt approached, Kevin found himself lying awake at night, his mind racing with possibilities and fears. He turned to look at Nova, her sleeping form bathed in the soft glow of the desert moonlight filtering through their window. Whatever challenges lay ahead, whatever forces might be working against them, Kevin knew one thing with absolute certainty. He and Nova were in this together, ready to face whatever the future might bring. The morning sun cast long shadows across the Nevada desert as Kevin and Nova prepared for their groundbreaking endeavor. The air in the facility crackled with nervous energy, scientists and researchers bustling about with an urgency that belied the momentous nature of the day's events. As Kevin buttoned his lab coat, a commotion near the main entrance caught his attention. A petite woman with dark hair pulled into a tight bun strode purposefully down the corridor, her heels clicking against the polished floor. "Dr. Elena Rodriguez," announced Dr. Stern, his voice tinged with a mix of relief and apprehension. "Our human reproductive specialist." Kevin felt a surge of hope at the arrival of this new expert. He extended his hand, which Dr. Rodriguez shook firmly. "Dr. Baker, it's an honor to be here," she said, her eyes bright with curiosity, "and this must be Nova." Nova inclined her head in greeting, towering over the human doctor. "Your expertise is most welcome, Dr. Rodriguez." As the team convened for final preparations, Kevin found himself ushered into a sterile examination room. The cold metal of the table sent a shiver through him as he lay back, electrodes being attached to his chest and temples. "Try to relax, Dr. Baker," murmured a technician. "We need to ensure your body is primed for this procedure." In an adjacent room, Nova underwent a far more intense process. Kevin winced as he heard her stifle a cry of pain, the sound carrying through the thin walls. Guilt gnawed at him, knowing the discomfort she endured was for their shared cause. Hours passed in a blur of tests and final adjustments. As evening approached, Kevin and Nova stood side by side in the main laboratory, facing the imposing apparatus designed for their coupling. Its sleek metal arms and delicate sensors represented years of research and the combined technological might of two species. Dr. Stern approached, his face grim. "We have a problem," he announced. "The primary coupling mechanism has malfunctioned. We may need to postpone." Kevin felt a wave of frustration wash over him. They had come so far, overcome so much. He refused to let a mechanical failure derail their mission. "No," he said firmly, surprising even himself with the authority in his voice. "We proceed today. Give me an hour with the engineering team." What followed was a frenzy of activity. Kevin, fueled by perseverance and adrenaline, worked alongside the facility's engineers to cobble together a makeshift solution. They repurposed hydraulic lifts, reinforced support structures, and recalibrated sensors. Nova watched the humans work with growing admiration. Their ability to adapt, to find solutions where none seemed possible, never ceased to amaze her. It was this very quality that had drawn her to Kevin in the first place. As the improvised apparatus took shape, Dr. Rodriguez oversaw final calibrations. "It's not pretty," she admitted, "but it should serve its purpose." With time running short, Kevin and Nova were escorted to the private chamber designated for the breeding attempt. The room hummed with the soft whir of monitoring equipment, its clinical sterility at odds with the intimate act about to take place. As technicians made final adjustments, Kevin turned to Nova. He reached up, his hand seeming so small as he cupped her face. "Whatever happens," he said softly, "we're in this together." Nova's large eyes shimmered with emotion. She leaned down, pressing her forehead to his in a gesture that transcended species. The actual breeding attempt proved far more challenging than either had anticipated. Kevin gritted his teeth against the discomfort, his body straining to accommodate Nova's alien physiology. For her part, Nova struggled to restrain her strength, acutely aware of how easily she could harm her human partner. Through it all, the research team monitored every heartbeat, every hormone fluctuation, every cellular interaction. Dr. Stern watched the proceedings with a mix of scientific detachment and grudging respect for the couple's perseverance. As the procedure concluded, both Kevin and Nova were whisked away for immediate post-attempt examinations. Kevin, exhausted and sore, submitted to blood draws and scans. His mind raced with questions, hope and fear warring within him. It was during these tests that Kevin noticed Nova's unusual lethargy. Her normally vibrant skin seemed dulled, her movements sluggish. "Dr. Rodriguez," Kevin called out, his voice tight with concern. "Something's wrong with Nova. She needs additional tests." The reproductive specialist hurried over, her expert eyes quickly assessing the Daxamite's condition. What she discovered sent a ripple of excitement through the research team. Nova's body was undergoing rapid changes, her cellular structure shifting in ways no one had predicted. As the facility buzzed with this new development, the outside world erupted into chaos. News of the breeding attempt spread like wildfire, drawing crowds of protesters and supporters alike to the desert compound. The sound of chanting and the thrum of helicopter rotors filtered through the reinforced walls, a reminder of the larger stakes at play. Inside, Kevin sat by Nova's bedside, holding her oversized hand in his. They exchanged glances filled with a mix of hope, fear, and something deeper, a connection that defied the boundaries of their respective species. Dr. Rodriguez entered, her face a mask of professional calm. "We'll need to keep Nova under close observation for the next several days," she explained. "The changes in her physiology are unprecedented. We're in uncharted territory now." As night fell over the Nevada desert, the facility settled into a tense vigil. In their private quarters, Kevin and Nova lay side by side, their bodies testament to the day's ordeal. Outside their window, the glow of floodlights illuminated a growing sea of people, their presence a constant reminder of the world waiting to learn the outcome of this historic attempt. Kevin's eyes remained fixed on Nova's sleeping form, watching for any sign of further change. Whatever the coming days might bring, he knew their actions had set in motion events that would reshape the future of both their species. All they could do now was wait, hope, and face the consequences of their groundbreaking union together. As the first rays of dawn crept across the Nevada desert, the facility buzzed with a nervous energy that belied the exhaustion of its occupants. Kevin's eyes fluttered open, his body aching from the night spent in an uncomfortable chair beside Nova's bed. He straightened, wincing at the stiffness in his muscles, and turned his attention to his partner. Nova lay still, her chest rising and falling with slow, steady breaths. Kevin leaned forward, studying her face intently. Was it his imagination, or had her features softened ever so slightly overnight? He reached out, his fingertips gently tracing the contours of her cheek. A soft knock at the door interrupted his contemplation. Dr. Elena Rodriguez entered, her dark hair now disheveled from hours of work. "How is she?" the doctor asked, moving to check Nova's vital signs. Kevin shook his head. "No change that I can see, but—" He hesitated, unsure if he should voice his observation. Dr. Rodriguez looked up from her tablet, her eyebrow raised. "But what, Dr. Baker?" "It might be nothing," Kevin said, "but I think her face looks different, softer somehow." The doctor's eyes widened slightly. She leaned in, examining Nova's features closely. After a moment, she stepped back, tapping furiously on her tablet. "I think you might be right," she said, her voice a mix of excitement and concern. "We need to run more tests. The physiological changes we're seeing are unprecedented." As if on cue, Nova's eyes fluttered open. She blinked, disoriented, her gaze finally settling on Kevin. "Kevin?" Her voice was hoarse. "What's happening?" Before he could answer, Dr. Rodriguez intervened. "Nova, how are you feeling? Any discomfort or unusual sensations?" Nova took a moment to assess her condition. "I feel strange, heavy, but also light, and there's a tingling sensation throughout my body." Dr. Rodriguez nodded, making notes. "We're going to need to run a full battery of tests. The breeding attempt seems to have triggered some unexpected changes in your physiology." Over the next few days, the facility transformed into a hive of intense activity. Nova underwent countless scans, blood tests, and physical examinations. Kevin remained by her side as much as possible, offering support and comfort during the more uncomfortable procedures. As the week progressed, the changes in Nova became more pronounced. Her towering height began to decrease gradually, and her alien features continued to soften. The research team watched in fascination as her body seemed to reshape itself, becoming a unique blend of human and Daxamite characteristics. Dr. Marcus Stern, initially skeptical of the entire project, found himself drawn into the unfolding scientific marvel. He approached Kevin one evening as the latter was grabbing a quick meal in the facility's cafeteria. "Dr. Baker," Stern said, sliding into the seat across from him, "I'd like to propose a series of non-invasive tests to better understand the extent of Nova's transformation. Nothing too strenuous, I assure you." Kevin's protective instincts flared. "Haven't you people poked and prodded her enough? She needs rest, not more tests." Stern held up his hands in a placating gesture. "I understand your concern, but these changes, they're unlike anything we've ever seen. The potential implications for both our species are enormous." Before Kevin could respond, Nova's voice came from behind him. "I'll do it." Kevin turned to see Nova standing there, looking slightly unsteady on her feet. He rushed to her side, supporting her as she sat down. "Nova, you don't have to," Kevin began, but she cut him off with a gentle touch to his arm. "I want to," she said firmly. "This is bigger than just us, Kevin. We need to understand what's happening." As Nova's condition continued to evolve, news of the breeding attempt's potential success began to spread beyond the facility's walls. Zara, Nova's Daxamite research partner, grew increasingly agitated as she observed the changes in her friend. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of tests, Zara confronted Nova in their shared lab space. "Nova, this has gone too far," Zara said, her normally calm demeanor cracking. "Look at what's happening to you. You're losing everything that makes you Daxamite." Nova met her friend's gaze steadily. "I'm not losing anything, Zara. I'm becoming something new. Something that could bridge our two species." Zara shook her head, her eyes filled with a mix of fear and purpose. "I'm sorry, Nova, but I can't stand by and watch this happen. Our people need to know." Before Nova could respond, Zara turned and strode out of the lab. Nova knew, with a sinking feeling, that her friend was about to set in motion events that would change everything. As Zara made her report to the Daxamite High Council, Kevin noticed subtle changes in his own body. His reflexes seemed sharper, his senses more acute. During a routine physical, he casually mentioned these observations to Dr. Rodriguez. The doctor's eyes widened. "Kevin, why didn't you say something sooner? We need to run tests immediately. If there's been a two-way genetic transfer..." Her voice trailed off as the implication sank in. The human Daxamite breeding program had just become far more complex than anyone had anticipated. As Kevin underwent his own battery of tests, a new tension gripped the facility. Word arrived that a Daxamite delegation, led by the conservative commander Zara, was en route to Earth. The news sent ripples of anxiety through both the human and Daxamite members of the research team. Nova, her strength returning even as her appearance continued to change, squeezed Kevin's hand as they watched the announcement on a monitor in their quarters. "Whatever happens," she said softly, "we're in this together." Kevin nodded, his eyes fixed on the image of the approaching Daxamite ship. He knew that the arrival of Commander Zara would mark the beginning of a new chapter in their journey, one filled with challenges they had yet to imagine. Imagine. The weight of their decision pressed upon them both as they contemplated the challenges that lay ahead. Their contemplation was interrupted by a gentle knock at the door. Dr. Rodriguez entered, her face a mixture of excitement and concern. "Nova, Kevin, we've made some remarkable discoveries," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I think you both need to see this." They followed her to a nearby laboratory where a team of researchers huddled around a bank of monitors. As they approached, the screens flickered to life, displaying a series of complex genetic models and physiological readouts. Dr. Rodriguez gestured to the displays. "Nova's transformation has stabilized, but the results are extraordinary. Her hybrid physiology exhibits enhanced strength, agility, and sensory perception that surpass both human and Daxamite norms." Nova's eyes widened as she absorbed the information. She flexed her fingers, suddenly aware of the latent power coursing through her body. "And that's not all," Dr. Rodriguez continued, turning to Kevin. Your own changes are progressing at an accelerated rate. Muscle mass increase, sharpened reflexes. It's as if the genetic exchange has unlocked some sort of latent evolutionary potential in both of you. Kevin felt a surge of energy course through him, his senses suddenly hyper-aware of his surroundings. He caught Nova's eye, a silent understanding passing between them. Their moment of wonder was short-lived. The facility's alarms blared to life, red lights flashing in warning. Dr. Stern burst into the lab, his face ashen. Stern. "We have a problem," he announced. "Commander Zara has been in secret communication with the Daxamite High Council. He's requesting permission to extract Nova and return her to their ship for further study and potential genetic reversal." Nova instinctively stepped closer to Kevin, her newfound strength evident in the way she moved. Kevin's mind raced, assessing their options. "We need to leave," he said firmly. "Now." Dr. Rodriguez nodded, her decision made in an instant. "I'll help you. We can create a diversion. A small lab fire should do the trick. It'll give you the cover you need to escape." As the facility descended into chaos, Kevin and Nova made their way through the winding corridors. Alarms blared and sprinklers hissed, creating a disorienting cacophony. They rounded a corner and found themselves face to face with a group of Daxamite guards led by Commander Zara himself. "Stop right there," Zara commanded, his voice cold and authoritative. Kevin stepped in front of Nova, his muscles tensing as he prepared for a confrontation. He could feel the new strength in his body, coiled and ready. "You don't understand what you're dealing with," Kevin said, his voice low and steady. Zara's eyes narrowed. "Stand aside, human. This is a matter of Daxamite security." The tension in the corridor was palpable, both sides poised on the brink of action. Suddenly, Dr. Stern's voice cut through the standoff. "Commander Zara," he said, striding forward with purpose, "I must insist that you stand down. Forcibly removing Nova would be a direct violation of our research agreement. The diplomatic repercussions could be severe." Zara hesitated, his tenacity visibly wavering. After a long moment, he stepped back, his face a mask of scarcely controlled fury. "This isn't over," he growled. With the immediate threat neutralized, Kevin and Nova seized their opportunity. They raced through the facility's exit, emerging into the cool night air. A vehicle waited for them, its engine already running. As they sped away from the compound, Nova winced, her hand moving to her abdomen. "Are you all right?" Kevin asked, concern etching his features. Nova nodded, though her discomfort was evident. "Just adjusting. My body still feels strange." Their journey took them deep into the Rocky Mountains, to a remote safe house prepared by Dr. Rodriguez. As they arrived, exhausted and on edge, they found the small cabin stocked with supplies and advanced medical equipment. Kevin helped Nova inside, guiding her to a comfortable chair. As he moved to check the perimeter, a sudden cry from Nova stopped him in his tracks. "Kevin," she gasped, her face contorted in pain. "Something's wrong." He rushed to her side, his heart pounding. Using the medical equipment, he ran a series of quick tests, his hands shaking slightly as he interpreted the results. His eyes widened in disbelief. "Nova," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "You're pregnant." The revelation hung in the air between them, a moment of impossible possibility. As they grappled with the implications, a faint sound from outside caught Kevin's attention. He moved to the window, peering out into the darkness. His blood ran cold as he spotted movement in the trees surrounding the cabin. They had been found. "We need to move," he said urgently, turning back to Nova. "Now!" As they prepared for yet another escape, the weight of their situation pressed upon them. They were no longer just fugitives. They were the guardians of a new life, one that could change the course of both their species forever. As Kevin turned back to Nova, the urgency of their situation hit him full force. The movement outside was no illusion. They had been found. "We need to move," he repeated, his voice low and intense. "Can you stand?" Nova nodded, gritting her teeth against the pain in her abdomen. Kevin helped her to her feet, his newly enhanced strength making the task easier than expected. They quickly gathered what supplies they could carry, including the essential medical equipment. Just as they finished, the sound of approaching vehicles filled the air. Kevin's heightened senses picked up the crunch of tires on gravel and the low hum of engines. He guided Nova to a hidden panel in the floor, revealing a narrow tunnel beneath. Dr. Rodriguez must have planned for this, he whispered, helping Nova into the opening. They descended into the darkness, Kevin pulling the panel shut above them, just as the first shouts of the search team echoed through the cabin. The tunnel was tight and damp, forcing them to move in a crouch. Nova's labored breathing filled the confined space as they pushed forward. After what felt like an eternity, they emerged into a dense forest. The pre-dawn light filtered weakly through the canopy, casting long shadows across the forest floor. Kevin's enhanced vision allowed him to navigate the treacherous terrain with ease, all while supporting Nova. As they moved deeper into the wilderness, the sounds of the search party faded behind them. However, Nova's condition was deteriorating rapidly. Her face was pale, beaded with sweat, and she clutched her swollen abdomen with increasing frequency. "Kevin!" she gasped, stumbling against a tree. "I don't know how much further I can go." He scanned their surroundings, his mind racing. They needed shelter, and fast. As if in answer to his unspoken prayer, he spotted a dilapidated structure in the distance, an old ranger station, nearly swallowed by the forest. "Just a little further," he encouraged, guiding her toward the building. The ranger station was a welcome refuge, despite its rundown state. Kevin quickly cleared a space, laying out their meager supplies. He helped Nova onto a dusty cot and began setting up the medical equipment with shaking hands. As he worked, a crackle of static from his pocket startled him. He pulled out a small device he didn't recognize, realizing with a jolt that Dr. Rodriguez must have slipped it to him during the chaos at the facility. "Kevin, Nova, can you hear me?" Dr. Rodriguez's voice came through, tinny but clear. "We're here," Kevin responded, relief flooding through him. "But Nova's not doing well. The baby—" "I know," Dr. Rodriguez cut in. "I've been monitoring her vitals remotely. The embryo is developing at an unprecedented rate. You need to stabilize her condition immediately." Under Dr. Rodriguez's guidance, Kevin administered a cocktail of medications designed to slow the embryo's growth and ease Nova's discomfort. As he worked, he noticed his own hands moving with a surety and precision he'd never possessed before. His transformation was accelerating, mirroring Nova's in its intensity. Outside, the forest came alive with the sounds of the search party. Drones buzzed overhead, their thermal sensors sweeping the area. Kevin's enhanced hearing picked up radio chatter. They were closing in. Suddenly, Nova cried out, her body arching in pain. Kevin rushed to her side, his newfound connection to her emotions overwhelming him with her fear and agony. The medical equipment beeped urgently, displaying readings he could barely comprehend. "Kevin," Dr. Rodriguez's voice crackled through the device. "The embryo is progressing too rapidly. We may need to consider an emergency delivery." The weight of the decision pressed down on Kevin. He looked at Nova, her face contorted in pain, then at the rudimentary medical equipment they had. Attempting a delivery here, in these conditions, could be disastrous, but moving Nova now seemed equally dangerous. As he grappled with the choice, a new sound reached his ears, the high-pitched whine of advanced technology. He peered out the grimy window, and his heart sank. A sleek, dark shuttle was descending through the trees, unlike anything he'd seen before. The Daxamites had arrived. Kevin turned back to Nova, his decision made. They couldn't stay here, not with both human and Daxamite forces closing in. He began packing up the essential equipment, his mind racing to formulate a plan. "We're moving," he told Dr. Rodriguez through the device. "Can you guide us to a safer location?" "I'll do my best," she replied, her voice tense. "But Kevin, be careful. There's something you should know about the embryo." Before she could finish, the device crackled and went silent. Kevin cursed under his breath, shoving it into his pocket. Whatever Dr. Rodriguez had discovered would have to wait. He gently lifted Nova, marveling at how light she felt in his enhanced state. As he carried her to the door, a flicker of movement outside caught his eye. A figure darted between the trees, too quick and graceful to be part of the military search party. Kevin froze, his instincts screaming danger. Whoever this new player was, they were about to complicate an already impossible situation. With Nova in his arms and unknown threats on all sides, he knew the real challenge was just beginning. Kevin's enhanced senses picked up the faint whir of advanced technology, confirming his suspicions. They were out of time. "Nova," he whispered urgently, "we have to move. Now." She nodded weakly, her face pale and drawn. Kevin gathered her in his arms, marveling again at how light she felt despite her condition. As he stepped out of the ranger station, the cool pre-dawn air hit his face, carrying with it the scent of pine and damp earth. Kevin moved swiftly through the forest, his enhanced agility allowing him to navigate the treacherous terrain with ease. Nova's labored breathing and the distant sound of search parties spurred him on, his muscles burning with exertion but showing no signs of fatigue. As the first rays of sunlight began to filter through the canopy, Kevin made a difficult decision. The ranger station had been compromised, and Nova's condition was deteriorating rapidly. They needed proper medical care, and fast. "Hold on," he murmured to Nova, changing direction towards a clearing he had spotted earlier. Suddenly, Nova let out a sharp gasp, her body tensing in Kevin's arms. He quickly found a secluded spot beneath a rocky overhang and gently set her down. "What's wrong?" he asked, his voice tight with concern. Nova's face contorted in pain. "The baby," she managed to say between gritted teeth. "It's coming." Kevin's heart raced as he realized the gravity of their situation. He quickly unpacked the medical equipment they had brought, his hands moving with newfound precision as he set up the monitors. The readings on the device made his blood run cold. The hybrid embryo was putting an enormous strain on Nova's body, its accelerated growth threatening both mother and child. As Kevin tended to Nova, he noticed a strange phenomenon. A soft, pulsating glow began to emanate from her abdomen, growing brighter with each contraction. The air around them seemed to crackle with energy, and Kevin felt the hairs on the back of his neck stand up. Suddenly, Nova's body began to lift slightly off the ground, surrounded by a shimmering field of energy. Kevin watched in awe as the luminescence intensified, casting eerie shadows on the cave walls. The energy field expanded, creating a localized electromagnetic pulse. In the distance, Kevin heard the telltale sound of drones falling from the sky, their circuits fried by the unexpected surge. As he marveled at this unintentional defense mechanism, Kevin noticed changes in Nova's appearance. Her skin took on an iridescent quality, shimmering in the dim light of the cave. Her eyes, when they fluttered open, glowed with an inner light that was both beautiful and unsettling. Kevin felt a surge of power course through his own body, his enhanced abilities amplifying even further. He realized with a start that the hybrid child was somehow connecting them, creating a symbiotic link between human, Daxamite, and this new, unprecedented life form. Outside the cave, the forest came alive with activity. Kevin's heightened senses picked up the sound of approaching vehicles and the low hum of advanced technology. Multiple factions were converging on their location, drawn by the energy surge from Nova's transformation. He recognized the authoritative voice of Colonel Hayes, barking orders to set up a perimeter. The sleek whine of a Daxamite shuttle cut through the air, and Kevin could almost feel Commander Zara's drive to secure Nova and the child. A new voice caught his attention, calm, focused, and vaguely familiar. It took him a moment to place it. Dr. Stern. The scientist was directing a team of his own, their intentions unclear, but their urgency palpable. Kevin stood protectively over Nova, his senses on high alert. The energy field around them pulsed stronger, creating a barrier between them and the encroaching forces. Nova's labor intensified, each contraction sending waves of light rippling through the cave. As the various factions closed in, Kevin realized that the birth of this hybrid child would be a pivotal moment, not just for them, but for the future of human-Daxamite relations. The cave had become ground zero for a potential evolutionary leap, with Nova at its center. Kevin knelt beside Nova, taking her hand in his. Her skin was hot to the touch, almost feverish, but her grip was strong. As another contraction racked her body, the energy field flared brightly, momentarily blinding Kevin. When his vision cleared, he saw Nova's eyes snap open, glowing with an otherworldly light. She spoke, her voice resonating with power and something else, a hint of the future that lay before them. "Kevin," she said, her words barely above a whisper, but filled with intensity. "It's time." Outside, the sound of clashing factions grew louder. The hybrid child's imminent arrival had set the stage for a confrontation that would shape the course of interstellar history. As Kevin braced himself for what was to come, he knew that whatever happened next would change everything. Everything. As Kevin braced himself for what was to come, a blinding flash erupted from Nova's body, overwhelming his enhanced senses. The cave shuddered violently, rocks and debris raining down around them. Kevin instinctively shielded Nova with his body, but the expected impact never came. Opening his eyes, he found himself and Nova encased in a shimmering bubble of energy, the collapsing cave held at bay by its protective field. The cave entrance sealed shut with a thunderous crash, plunging them into darkness broken only by the pulsating glow emanating from Nova's abdomen. The sudden silence was deafening, the sounds of the converging factions outside now muffled and distant. "Nova, are you all right?" Kevin asked, his voice tight with concern. She nodded weakly, her face contorted in pain, as another contraction racked her body. The energy field around her expanded, filling the entire cave with a soft, otherworldly light. Kevin quickly assessed their situation, his heart sinking as he noticed the damage to their medical equipment. Outside, chaos erupted as the various factions realized their quarry was now sealed within the mountain. Colonel Hayes' authoritative voice cut through the commotion, ordering his team to begin careful excavation. The whine of Daxamite energy drills soon joined the cacophony, Commander Zara's impatience evident in the intensity of their operation. Inside the cave, Kevin's newfound abilities surged to new heights. His senses sharpened further, allowing him to perceive the structural weaknesses in the cave walls. Acting on instinct, he pressed his hands against the unstable areas, his enhanced strength reinforcing the rock and preventing further collapse. Nova's labor intensified, her cries of pain echoing in the confined space. Kevin returned to her side, his hands moving with uncanny precision as he worked with the limited medical resources at his disposal. "Kevin," Nova gasped between contractions, "I can feel something's different." He nodded, sensing it too. The air crackled with energy, every cell in his body alive with an otherworldly power. As he placed his hands on Nova's abdomen, a powerful connection formed between them and their unborn child. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted from Nova's body, momentarily overwhelming Kevin's senses. When his vision cleared, he found himself cradling a newborn child of breathtaking beauty. The infant's skin shimmered with an iridescent glow, its eyes wise and luminous. As Kevin held the child, a flood of knowledge and understanding rushed through his mind. Images of a harmonious future between humans and Daxamites filled his consciousness, the child's very existence a bridge between the two species. Outside, a massive energy surge disabled all electronic equipment in the vicinity. The pulse, detected by orbiting satellites, drew the immediate attention of world leaders and the Daxamite High Council. In the aftermath of the surge, the cave entrance disintegrated, turned to dust by the hybrid child's power. Kevin emerged carrying Nova and their newborn, surrounded by a shimmering protective field. The assembled factions stood frozen, unable to approach due to the energy barrier. Dr. Stern stepped forward, his voice calm and measured. "I propose a temporary truce. The safety and well-being of Nova and the child must be our primary concern." Reluctantly, Colonel Hayes, Commander Zara, and Dr. Frost agreed to stand down. Kevin gently laid Nova on a medical stretcher, his eyes never leaving the infant in his arms. The hybrid child turned its gaze upon the assembled crowd. In that moment, a profound sense of connection washed over humans and Daxamites alike. Long-held beliefs and prejudices began to crumble in the face of this unprecedented being. As Dr. Stern approached to begin his preliminary examinations, Kevin felt a mixture of pride, wonder, and apprehension. The birth of their hybrid child had set in motion events that would reshape the future of human-Daxamite relations. As he looked down at the infant's glowing eyes, he realized that the true implications of this unprecedented birth were only beginning to unfold. The child cooed softly, its tiny hand reaching up to touch Kevin's face. In that touch, he felt a surge of energy and a glimpse of possibilities yet to come. The assembled factions watched in awe, their previous agendas momentarily forgotten in the face of this miraculous event. Dr. Stern's voice broke through Kevin's reverie. "We need to move them to a secure medical facility immediately. The child's unique physiology requires specialized care." As if in response to the doctor's words, the protective field around Kevin, Nova, and the child pulsed, expanding slightly. Kevin nodded, understanding the unspoken message. They would go, but on their terms, protected by their child's extraordinary abilities. With Nova's stretcher hovering inches above the ground, surrounded by the shimmering energy field, Kevin began to walk. The crowd parted, a mixture of fear, awe, and curiosity on their faces. As they moved towards the waiting medical transport, Kevin couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of a much larger journey. As they approached the medical transport, the air around them suddenly crackled with intense energy. The protective field surrounding Kevin, Nova, and their newborn child began to pulse erratically, sending out waves of force that bent nearby trees and caused small objects to levitate. Dr. Stern's eyes widened as he observed the phenomenon. "The child's power is unstable," he called out, his voice urgent. "We need to move quickly before it becomes dangerous." Colonel Hayes, assessing the situation with military precision, nodded grimly. "We'll provide immediate transport to a secure facility. This area isn't safe for anyone right now." Commander Zara stepped forward, his Daxamite features set in a mask of perseverance. "Allow us to assist. Our medical technology can help stabilize the infant's abilities during transport." As the various factions scrambled to prepare for departure, a sleek helicopter appeared on the horizon, its rotors cutting through the air with barely a whisper. It touched down nearby, and a tall, imposing man with piercing gray eyes and a neatly trimmed beard emerged. "Dr. Alexei Volkov," he introduced himself, his voice carrying a hint of a Russian accent. "I represent Project Chimera. We specialize in xenobiology and hybrid species management. Perhaps we can be of assistance?" Kevin felt Nova tense beside him, her newly enhanced strength evident in the way the stretcher creaked under her grip. He placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, acutely aware of the weight of their child in his other arm. "We don't have a choice," he murmured to her. "We need their help." Nova nodded weakly, her shimmering skin glistening with a fine sheen of sweat. As if sensing its parents' unease, the hybrid child let out a soft coo, and another pulse of energy radiated outward. Every electronic device within a half-mile radius shorted out simultaneously, plunging the area into momentary darkness before emergency systems kicked in. "Impressive," Dr. Volkov remarked, his eyes gleaming with scientific curiosity. With time of the essence, the group quickly boarded the waiting transports. Kevin cradled their child close, marveling at how the infant's skin seemed to ripple with waves of iridescent light. As the convoy began to move, he noticed that his own senses were continuing to sharpen. He could hear the individual heartbeats of everyone in the vehicle, feel the vibrations of the engine through the floor with startling clarity. Nova, too, was changing. As she lay on the stretcher, her body seemed to be adapting rapidly to the aftermath of the hybrid pregnancy. Kevin watched in awe as she absent-mindedly bent a thick metal railing with ease, her newfound strength apparent. The journey to the military base was tense, with all eyes on the glowing child. Kevin found that he could somehow sense the ebb and flow of the energy surrounding them. Acting on instinct, he gently placed his hand on the infant's chest and felt a surge of connection. The erratic pulses of power seemed to calm slightly at his touch. Upon arriving at the base, they were quickly ushered into a specially prepared containment room. The space was a marvel of engineering, its walls lined with a combination of earth and Daxamite technology designed to absorb and redirect energy surges. Dr. Stern, Commander Zara, Dr. Frost, and Dr. Volkov wasted no time in setting up a makeshift laboratory adjacent to the containment room. Through a thick observation window, Kevin could see them hunched over various instruments, their faces lit by the glow of monitors displaying incomprehensible data. As night fell, Kevin and Nova found themselves alone with their child for the first time since the birth. The infant's eyes, wise beyond their hours, gazed up at them with an unnerving intelligence. "What do we do now?" Nova whispered, her voice tinged with both wonder and fear. Before Kevin could respond, the child let out a sudden cry. The air in the room began to crackle with energy, and the containment field visibly strained against the surge of power. Acting on pure instinct, Kevin took Nova's hand and placed it alongside his on their child's chest. The effect was immediate and startling. As their enhanced abilities synced, a calm washed over the room. The erratic energy field stabilized, forming a perfect sphere around the family. "Did you feel that?" Kevin asked, his voice filled with awe. Nova nodded, her eyes wide. "It's like we're connected, all three of us." Outside the containment room, alarms blared as instruments registered the sudden shift in energy patterns. The team of scientists rushed to the observation window, their faces a mixture of surprise and excitement. Dr. Stern's voice came through the intercom, barely containing his excitement. "What you've just done, it's incredible. You've managed to stabilize the child's energy output in a way our technology couldn't. This could be the key to managing the infant's abilities." As the scientists excitedly discussed the implications of this discovery, Kevin and Nova shared a look of understanding. They were entering uncharted territory, not just for themselves, but for both their species. The challenges ahead were daunting, but in that moment, cradling their extraordinary child, they felt a flicker of hope for the future. Unknown to them, high above the Earth's atmosphere, a cloaked Daxamite scout ship hovered silently. Inside, Dr. Zara, a rogue Daxamite scientist with sharp features and cold, calculating eyes, observed the events unfolding below through advanced surveillance equipment. "Fascinating," she murmured, her fingers dancing across a holographic interface. "This hybrid child could be the key to elevating our entire species. We must acquire it for further study." As Dr. Zara began formulating her plan, the stage was set for a conflict that would reach far beyond the walls of the military base, with implications for both Earth and the Daxamite homeworld. Homeworld. Dr. Zara's eyes narrowed as she focused on the containment room housing the hybrid child. Her fingers danced across the holographic interface, initiating the next phase of her plan. As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, the military base stirred to life. Inside the containment room, Kevin and Nova awoke to the soft cooing of their child. The infant's skin pulsed with a gentle, iridescent light, casting a warm glow throughout the space. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. The sudden noise startled the child, causing a surge of energy to ripple outward. Kevin felt the floor beneath him vibrate as the containment field strained against the pulse. "What's happening?" Nova asked, her voice tight with concern. Before Kevin could respond, Dr. Stern's voice crackled over the intercom. "We're experiencing widespread power fluctuations. The child's energy output is increasing exponentially." Outside the containment room, chaos reigned. Scientists scrambled to stabilize their equipment as intermittent blackouts swept through the base. In the command center, Colonel Hayes barked orders to his security team, his face illuminated by the flashing red emergency lights. Dr. Volkov burst into the room, his normally composed demeanor replaced by urgent intensity. "We need to implement containment measures immediately," he announced, unrolling a set of blueprints on a nearby table. "I propose we create a specialized suit to regulate the child's energy output." Commander Zara studied the designs, his brow furrowed. "This incorporates both human and Daxamite technology. It could work, but we'll need to act fast." As the team of engineers and scientists set to work on the containment suit, Kevin and Nova noticed alarming changes in their own bodies. Kevin flexed his hand, watching in astonishment as the muscles beneath his skin rippled with newfound strength. He reached out and effortlessly bent a thick metal support beam. Nova gasped, her fingers tracing the subtle, shimmering pattern that had appeared on her skin. When a piece of falling debris struck her arm, it bounced off harmlessly, leaving her unscathed. Dr. Frost observed these changes through the observation window, her eyes wide with fascination. "Incredible," she murmured, furiously taking notes. "The prolonged exposure to the child seems to be activating latent genetic potential in both parents." Outside the base perimeter, a growing crowd of protesters clashed with military personnel. Signs bearing slogans like, no alien hybrids, and protect humanity waved above the angry mob. A group of extremists, their faces covered by masks, attempted to breach the security fence. Colonel Hayes' voice boomed over the base-wide communication system. All personnel, be advised, we have a code red situation at the main gate. Security teams, deploy immediately. Inside the containment room, Kevin and Nova watched in awe as their child demonstrated a new startling ability. Small objects began to float, orbiting around the infant in defying gravity. The child giggled, clearly delighted by this newfound power. "This is incredible," Kevin whispered, reaching out to touch a floating stuffed animal. "But also terrifying. What if the child can't control it?" Nova nodded, her eyes never leaving their offspring. "We need help. We can't manage this on our own." As if in response to their concerns, Dr. Elena Rodriguez's face appeared on a nearby monitor. The remote specialist's eyes were bright with excitement. "I've been analyzing the energy fluctuation patterns," she explained. "There's a correlation between the child's emotional state and the power surges. It's similar to how human infants cry to express their needs." This insight galvanized the research team. With renewed focus, they redoubled their efforts on the containment suit, incorporating Dr. Rodriguez's findings into the design. As night fell on the 10th day since the child's birth, the base hummed with nervous energy. The containment suit was nearly complete, but test runs had revealed a critical flaw in its energy absorption capabilities. Suddenly, the night sky lit up with an otherworldly glow. Alarms blared as a cloaked Daxamite scout ship materialized above the base, its weapon systems powering up. Inside the ship, Dr. Zara smiled coldly. "Begin the assault," she commanded. "Retrieve the child at all costs." Energy beams lanced down from the ship, effortlessly penetrating the base's defenses. Explosions rocked the facility as chaos erupted throughout the compound. In the containment room, Kevin and Nova exchanged a look of unshakable focus. Their child, now resembling a toddler due to accelerated growth, looked up at them with eyes far too knowing for its age. "Mama, Dada," the child spoke, its first words lost in the din of the attack. As the sounds of battle drew closer, Kevin and Nova faced an impossible choice: remain in the relative safety of the containment room or attempt to flee with their rapidly developing child. The future of two worlds hung in the balance as they prepared to make their decision. The future of two worlds hung in the balance as they prepared to make their move. Kevin locked eyes with Nova, a silent understanding passing between them. Without a word, he scooped up their child, now glowing with an otherworldly light, and Nova placed her hand on the containment field. With a burst of her newfound strength, she shattered the weakened barrier. Alarms blared as they burst into the corridor, now filled with panicked personnel and sparking equipment. Kevin's enhanced senses picked up the sound of heavy footfalls approaching rapidly. "This way," he shouted, guiding Nova through the chaos. They rounded a corner and nearly collided with Colonel Hayes, flanked by a team of elite soldiers in full tactical gear. "Follow me," Hayes ordered, his voice steady despite the mayhem. "We're getting you to the underground bunker." As they raced through the maze-like facility, the hybrid child clung to Kevin, its eyes wide with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Suddenly, a section of the ceiling collapsed ahead of them. Without breaking stride, Kevin handed the child to Nova and charged forward. He gripped the fallen debris, muscles rippling with superhuman strength, and hurled it aside as if it weighed nothing. Nova gasped as she watched her husband clear the path. "Kevin, your strength—" "I know," he replied, flexing his hands in amazement. "It's like I can tap into it at will now." They pressed on, the sounds of battle growing louder behind them. Energy beams from the Daxamite ship penetrated the base's outer defenses, causing tremors that shook the very foundations of the facility. As they approached a junction, a familiar figure emerged from a side corridor, clutching a bulky metallic object. "Wait!" Dr. Volkov called out, slightly out of breath. "You'll need this." He held up the prototype containment suit, its surface glowing faintly with a mix of human and Daxamite technology. Kevin hesitated, eyeing the suit warily. "Why should we trust you?" Volkov's eyes darted between Kevin, Nova, and their child. "Because right now I'm your best chance at keeping that child safe and stable. This suit can help regulate its energy output. Nova looked at Kevin, then at their child, who was beginning to emit pulses of energy that made the air crackle around them. She nodded. We don't have a choice. We need all the help we can get. With practiced efficiency, Volkov helped them secure the suit around the child. The effect was immediate. The erratic energy pulses subsided, replaced by a steady, controlled glow. It's working, Nova breathed, relief evident in her voice. Their reprieve was short-lived as another explosion rocked the base. Colonel Hayes gestured urgently toward a heavily reinforced door at the end of the corridor. The bunker's just ahead. Move! As they reached the entrance, Kevin's enhanced hearing picked up the sound of approaching hostiles. He turned to face the threat, positioning himself between his family and the danger. Get them inside, he told Hayes. I'll hold them off. Nova grabbed his arm. No, we go together. Before Kevin could argue, their child spoke, its voice carrying a wisdom far beyond its years. Mama Dada, hurry! Bad people coming! Stunned by their child's sudden articulation, Kevin and Nova allowed themselves to be ushered into the bunker. The heavy doors sealed behind them just as a massive energy surge from their child caused a facility-wide blackout. In the pitch darkness of the bunker, Nova instinctively created a protective energy barrier, its soft blue glow illuminating their surroundings. As emergency power kicked in, they all stared in shock at the child. Where moments ago there had been an infant, now stood a young child of about 5 years old, eyes shining with intelligence and power, impossibly strong by the suit. How is this possible? Kevin whispered, reaching out to touch his child's face. Dr. Volkov was already scanning the child with a handheld device, his expression a mix of awe and scientific curiosity. The energy surges must have accelerated its growth. Fascinating. Before they could process this new development, Colonel Hayes' voice crackled over the bunker's communication system. Dr. Zara's team has retreated to their ship, but they're still in the area. And we've got another problem. The Daxamite High Council has dispatched a peacekeeping force. They'll be here within hours. Kevin ran a hand through his hair, the weight of their situation settling heavily on his shoulders. We can't stay here. Earth isn't safe, not for us, and not from us. Nova nodded in agreement, her mind racing. But where can we go? The entire world will be looking for us. Their child tugged at Nova's sleeve, eyes wide with an unnerving certainty. I know a place. I saw it. A hidden place. Far away, where we can be safe. What do you mean, sweetie? Nova asked, kneeling to meet her child's gaze. A Daxamite outpost, the child explained, voice steady and clear. On one of Jupiter's moons. It has answers. It can help me control this. The child gestured to the containment suit and the energy still visibly swirling beneath its surface. Kevin and Nova exchanged a look of disbelief. How could their child know about a secret Daxamite outpost? And more importantly, could they trust this vision? As if in response to their unspoken questions, the child's powers surged again. The gravitational field inside the bunker began to fluctuate wildly. Objects floated off surfaces, and the very walls seemed to warp and bend. Dr. Volkov rushed to adjust the containment suit, his fingers flying over its control panel. The suit can't fully contain the child's growing powers. We need to make a decision. Fast. Kevin looked at Nova, then at their child, his mind racing through their limited options. Stay and face capture, or worse. Attempt to escape Earth with no clear destination, or take a leap of faith and trust their child's vision of a Daxamite outpost near Jupiter. The bunker shuddered as another explosion rocked the base above. Time was running out. With the fate of their family and potentially 2 civilizations hanging in the balance, Kevin and Nova braced themselves to make a decision that would change everything. Kevin and Nova exchanged a determined look, their decision made. They turned to Colonel Hayes, who nodded in understanding. We need to leave Earth, Kevin said, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. Our child's vision, it's our best chance. Colonel Hayes pressed his lips into a thin line. I can't officially sanction this, but I'll do what I can to help. You'll have a small window to escape once we initiate our counterattack. As if on cue, Dr. Volkov stepped forward, holding up the completed containment suit. It's ready. This should help stabilize the child's energy output, at least temporarily. With gentle hands, Nova helped their child into the suit. The effect was immediate. The swirling energy beneath the child's skin calmed, and the gravitational distortions in the bunker ceased. "How do you feel, sweetheart?" Nova asked, her voice soft with concern. The child, now resembling a preteen, looked up with eyes that held wisdom beyond their years. "Better, clearer. We need to go now." As they prepared to leave the bunker, the heavy doors slid open, revealing Commander Zara. The Daxamite's expression was conflicted, but resolute. "I'm coming with you," he announced. "My duty now is to protect this child and uncover the truth behind their extraordinary abilities." Kevin tensed, ready for a fight, but Nova placed a calming hand on his arm. She sensed no deception from the commander. "We'll need your help," she said, "especially if we're going to commandeer that scout ship." Colonel Hayes' voice crackled over the intercom. "It's time. We're launching the EMP in 30 seconds. Good luck." The group braced themselves as the lights flickered and died. In the darkness, Nova created a soft blue energy field, illuminating their path. "Move fast! Stay together!" Kevin instructed as they emerged from the bunker. They navigated through the chaos of the disabled base, their progress aided by the child's uncanny ability to sense danger. Kevin's enhanced strength cleared obstacles, while Nova's energy manipulation kept attackers at bay. As they neared the location of the cloaked Daxamite ship, Commander Zara activated a device on his wrist. The air shimmered, revealing the sleek outline of the scout ship. "There!" Zara pointed, but before they could reach it, a familiar figure stepped out from behind the ship's hull. Dr. Zara's eyes gleamed with a mixture of triumph and desperation. "Did you really think I'd let you take my life's work?" She raised a Daxamite energy weapon, its barrel glowing ominously. Kevin moved to shield his family, but the child stepped forward, eyes locked on Dr. Zara. "You're afraid," the child said, voice eerily calm. "You don't have to be." Dr. Zara's hand trembled. "Stay back," she warned. In that moment of hesitation, Nova struck. A burst of energy from her hand knocked the weapon from Dr. Zara's grasp. Kevin lunged forward, his enhanced speed allowing him to subdue the rogue scientist before she could react. As Commander Zara secured Dr. Zara, a sudden surge of energy erupted from the child. The containment suit crackled and sparked, its systems overwhelmed. "The suit's failing!" Dr. Volkov cried out, frantically adjusting controls. The energy pulse expanded outward, momentarily disabling the scout ship's cloaking technology. Alarms blared across the base as the ship became visible to all. "We need to leave now," Commander Zara urged, already moving toward the ship's entrance. They rushed aboard, Kevin carrying the now unconscious Dr. Zara while Nova supported their child. Dr. Volkov worked feverishly to stabilize the containment suit as Commander Zara took control of the ship's systems. The engines hummed to life just as the first energy blast from the base's remaining defenses struck the hull. Colonel Hayes' voice came through on the ship's communication system. "This is all the cover I can provide. Good luck and Godspeed." The scout ship rose swiftly, its advanced propulsion systems easily breaking free of Earth's gravity. As they breached the atmosphere, the child's eyes snapped open, glowing with an otherworldly light. "There," the child said, pointing toward the distant speck of Jupiter. "That's where we need to go." Commander Zara nodded, his fingers dancing over the control panel. Preparing for faster-than-light jump. As the stars blurred around them, Kevin and Nova looked at each other, the weight of their decision settling in. They had left behind everything they knew, but the safety of their child, and potentially the future of two civilizations, depended on what they would find at that hidden Daxamite outpost. The ship's computer chimed, indicating they were approaching Jupiter's orbit. As the massive gas giant loomed before them, the child's eyes began to glow once more. "It's there," the child whispered, pointing to one of Jupiter's many moons. "Hidden, but I can feel it." Commander Zara frowned at his instruments. "I'm not detecting any outpost, but there's definitely some kind of energy signature coming from that moon." As they approached the moon's surface, a shimmer in the air caught their attention. A massive structure began to materialize, its architecture clearly Daxamite in origin. Incredible, Dr. Volkov breathed, his scientific curiosity overriding his fear. A cloaking field of that size, the energy requirements must be enormous. The child pressed a hand against the ship's viewport, eyes wide with wonder and recognition. This is it. This is where we'll find answers. As Commander Zara maneuvered the ship toward a docking bay that had appeared in the outpost's exterior, Kevin and Nova shared a look of willpower. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, for the sake of their extraordinary child and the future of both their worlds. The ship touched down gently in the docking bay, and for a moment, everything was still. Then with a soft hiss, the outpost systems acknowledged their presence. Lights flickered to life, illuminating a vast, long-abandoned facility that held secrets waiting to be uncovered. Illuminated, long-dormant systems hummed to life, responding to the presence of the newcomers. As the group disembarked from the scout ship, they were met with an eerie silence, broken only by the soft echoes of their footsteps on the metallic floor. The child, now resembling a young teenager, stepped forward with an air of certainty that belied their rapidly changing form. "This way," they said, pointing down a dimly lit corridor. As they moved deeper into the facility, the child's growth continued at an alarming pace. Within hours, their bodies stretched and matured, clothes straining against a rapidly developing frame. Dr. Volkov worked feverishly, making constant adjustments to the containment suit as it struggled to keep up with the child's accelerating changes. "The suit's reaching its limits," Volkov muttered, his fingers dancing across a handheld control panel. "I don't know how much longer it will hold." Nova, her brow furrowed in concentration, placed a hand on the corridor wall. To her surprise, she felt a surge of energy flow through her fingertips, connecting her to the very systems of the outpost. I can sense the power grid," she gasped. "It's like I can see the energy pathways throughout the entire structure." Kevin watched in amazement as his wife's eyes glowed faintly, her newfound abilities manifesting before them. "Can you use it to help us navigate?" he asked. Nova nodded, closing her eyes to focus. "There's a large chamber ahead, pulsing with a strange energy signature. I think that's where we need to go." As they pressed on, the sound of distant explosions reached them. Commander Zara's wrist device beeped urgently. "The pursuit force has found us," he announced grimly. "They're attempting to breach the outpost's defenses." Kevin's enhanced reflexes kicked in as he assessed their options. "We need to secure whatever's in that chamber and find a way to hold them off." Dr. Zara, who had been unusually quiet since their arrival, suddenly spoke up. "The artifact," she said, her voice tight with excitement and fear. "It's here, isn't it? The genetic manipulator?" Before anyone could respond, the child let out a cry of pain. The containment suit sparked and sizzled, overwhelmed by a massive surge of energy. In a blinding flash, the suit failed completely, disintegrating around the child's now fully grown form. The hybrid stood before them, appearing as a young adult, their eyes blazing with otherworldly power. Energy crackled around their body, but instead of the wild, uncontrolled burst from before, it moved with purpose and precision. "I can hear them," the hybrid said, their voice resonating with newfound strength. "The Daxamite ships, the outpost systems, everything." With a wave of their hand, the hybrid manipulated the energy fields around them. The pursuing ship's systems faltered, their weapons going offline. Simultaneously, the outpost's ancient defenses roared to life, creating an impenetrable barrier around the facility. Nova gasped as she felt the surge of power through her connection to the outpost. "It's incredible," she breathed. "You're interfacing with everything at once." The hybrid nodded, a small smile playing on their lips. "I understand now. This place, the artifact, it's all connected to who I am, what I can do." They reached the central chamber, a vast space dominated by a pulsating, crystalline structure. As the hybrid approached, tendrils of energy reached out, forming a connection between them and the artifact. While the hybrid communed with the ancient technology, Kevin, Nova, and the others explored the surrounding area. Commander Zara accessed a nearby console, his eyes widening as he scrolled through the data. "This outpost," he said, his voice filled with awe, "it's far older than I imagined. The Daxamites have been conducting experiments here for centuries, studying genetic manipulation across multiple species." Dr. Volkov leaned in, his scientific curiosity piqued. "Including humans?" Zara nodded gravely. "It appears so." As they delved deeper into the outpost secrets, a commotion from behind caught their attention. Dr. Zara, seizing an opportunity in the chaos, had broken free from her restraints. She lunged for a communication panel, her fingers flying over the controls. "No!" Kevin shouted, moving to stop her, but he was too far away. Nova, however, reacted instinctively. Drawing on her new connection to the outpost systems, she reached out with her mind, intercepting and blocking Dr. Zara's transmission before it could leave the facility. Dr. Zara whirled around, her face contorted with frustration. "You don't understand. The High Council needs to know what we found here. The implications—" Her words were cut short as the hybrid emerged from their communion with the artifact, their eyes glowing with newfound knowledge and purpose. "There's more," the hybrid announced, their voice carrying a weight of importance. "This outpost is just one piece of a larger puzzle. There are others, scattered across the galaxy, each holding a part of the truth about our origins, both human and Daxamite." As if in response to the hybrid's words, alarms blared throughout the facility. The outpost's defenses, while formidable, were beginning to buckle under the sustained assault from the Daxamite ships. Kevin turned to the group, his expression determined. "We need to move. Whatever we decide to do with this knowledge, we can't let it fall into the wrong hands." Nova nodded in agreement, her eyes meeting her child's. "Where do we go from here?" The hybrid's gaze turned distant, as if seeing beyond the confines of the outpost. "There's another facility, hidden in a neighboring star system. It holds the next piece of the puzzle." As the group rushed to prepare for their next move, the weight of their discovery hung heavy in the air. They had uncovered secrets that could reshape the future of two civilizations, but with that knowledge came great responsibility and great danger. The walls of the outpost shuddered as another blast rocked the facility. Time was running out. With the artifact secured and a new destination in mind, they raced back toward their ship, the sound of the Daxamite forces growing ever closer. Closer. With a fierce commitment in their eyes, the group sprinted towards their scout ship, the hybrid child taking the lead. As they reached the ship, the outpost shuddered violently. The Daxamite forces had breached the outer defenses. Without hesitation, the hybrid raised their hands, energy crackling between their fingers. A shimmering dome materialized around the central chamber, buying them precious moments. "That won't hold them for long," the hybrid said, voice strained with effort. Commander Zara dashed to a nearby control panel, his fingers flying over the interface. "Activating secondary defenses," he announced. A series of whirs and clicks echoed through the chamber as hidden turrets emerged from the walls, and energy barriers flickered to life in the corridors. Kevin wasted no time. "I'll secure the ship and load what we can," he said, his enhanced muscles rippling as he lifted a heavy crate of equipment. Nova nodded, placing her hand on a nearby console. Her eyes glowed as she connected with the outpost systems. "I can redirect power to critical areas," she said. "It might buy us more time." Dr. Volkov hunched over a data terminal, his face illuminated by the screen's glow. "There's so much here," he muttered. "I'm downloading everything I can about the artifact and the genetic experiments." A commotion from behind caught their attention. Dr. Zara had broken free once again, her fingers frantically tapping at a communication panel. Nova's eyes flashed, and the panel went dark. "No," Dr. Zara cried out. "You don't understand. The High Council needs to know." Her words were cut short as the hybrid's eyes widened in alarm. "Someone intercepted part of that transmission. We need to move. Now." The walls trembled as another blast rocked the facility. Kevin emerged from the ship, his face grim. "We're loaded, but where do we go?" The hybrid closed their eyes, interfacing with the outpost database. "There's another facility in a neighboring system. It holds more answers about me." Commander Zara's wrist device beeped urgently. "We're out of time. They're almost through." The hybrid's expression shifted, a mix of fear and drive. There might be a way. The artifact, I think I can use it to create a wormhole. It's unstable, but it's our only chance. Nova looked at her child, concern etched on her face. Are you sure? The hybrid nodded. It's the only way. As the group made final preparations, Kevin secured Dr. Zara, knowing her knowledge might prove crucial. Dr. Volkov frantically downloaded the last bits of data while Commander Zara prepped the ship's systems. The hybrid approached the pulsating artifact, placing their hands on its crystalline surface. Energy surged through the chamber, causing the air to crackle and spark. A swirling vortex of light began to form in the center of the room. Now, the hybrid shouted, we have to go now. The group rushed aboard the scout ship, Kevin carrying the last piece of vital technology. As the engines roared to life, the chamber's doors burst open. Daxamite soldiers poured in, weapons raised. With a lurch, the ship lifted off. The hybrid, strain evident on their face, guided them towards the swirling portal. In a blinding flash, they plunged into the wormhole, leaving the stunned Daxamite forces behind. The journey was chaotic. The ship bucked and shuddered, alarms blaring as systems were pushed to their limits. Nova's hands glowed as she channeled energy to reinforce the hull. Commander Zara fought with the controls, his face a mask of concentration. I don't know how long I can hold this, the hybrid gasped, their body glowing with an otherworldly light. After what felt like an eternity, they burst from the wormhole into an unfamiliar star system. A red dwarf star glowed dimly in the distance, orbited by a small rocky planet. There, the hybrid said weakly, pointing at the planet. The facility is there. As they approached, however, multiple readings appeared on the ship's sensors. Commander Zara's eyes widened. We're not alone. There are other ships in orbit, and they seem to be in some kind of standoff with the planet's defenses. The hybrid slumped in their seat, exhausted from the ordeal. Kevin moved to support them, worry evident in his eyes. What now? He asked, looking around at their battered group. Nova's gaze was fixed on the planet below and the unknown ships surrounding it. We find a way in, she said firmly. Whatever's down there, it's our best chance at answers. As they cautiously approached the planet, the scout ship systems flickered, damaged from the intense journey. The group exchanged glances, aware that they were entering a new, potentially hostile situation with limited resources and an unknown enemy. The hybrid stirred, their eyes focusing on the planet with an intensity that seemed to look beyond its surface. There's something down there, they whispered. Something familiar. With a deep breath, Commander Zara began the delicate process of navigating through the standoff, seeking a way to reach the hidden facility on the planet's surface. As they descended, the group knew that whatever they found there would change the course of their journey and possibly the fate of two civilizations forever. As they descended towards the planet's surface, the tension in the scout ship was palpable. Commander Zara's eyes narrowed as he studied the ship's sensors, his fingers dancing across the control panel. I'm picking up multiple signatures, he announced, his voice tight. Those ships in orbit, they're not Daxamite. They appear to be regulin. Kevin's eyebrows shot up. Regulins? What are they doing here? The Regulin Confederation, Dr. Volkov explained, leaning forward with interest. Known for their advanced biotechnology and particular interest in genetic manipulation. Nova's gaze was fixed on the screen, watching as energy beams crisscrossed the space above the planet. It looks like they're in some kind of standoff with the planet's defenses. The hybrid child, still recovering from the strain of maintaining the wormhole, suddenly sat up straighter. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly light as they reached out with their mind, tapping into the facility's communication systems. The Regulins, they said, their voice distant. They're demanding access to the genetic research in the facility. They believe it holds the key to curing a plague affecting their species. Kevin's enhanced reflexes kicked in as he took control of the navigation. The scout ship weaved through the chaotic space battle, narrowly avoiding stray weapons fire. Nova extended her hands, creating a shimmering energy field around their vessel for added protection. As they approached the planet's surface, a weak signal caught Commander Zara's attention. Wait, he said, adjusting the communications array. I'm picking up a distress call. It's an old Daxamite emergency frequency. The signal led them to a concealed hangar bay, barely visible among the rocky terrain. Kevin expertly maneuvered the ship into the narrow opening, touching down with a soft thud. As the group disembarked, they were met by a small contingent of Daxamite scientists. At their head stood a tall woman with striking silver eyes, Dr. Lyra, the facility's chief geneticist. "Thank the star," she breathed, relief evident in her voice. "We've been cut off for weeks. The regulins have us under siege, and we can't reach the High Council." Dr. Volkov's eyes widened as he took in the advanced equipment visible even in the hangar. "This facility," he began, his scientific curiosity piqued. "What exactly is its purpose?" Dr. Lyra hesitated, her gaze flickering between the group members before settling on the hybrid child. "It was established centuries ago," she explained. "Our mission is to study and perfect interspecies genetic compatibility. The ultimate goal is to create hybrid beings capable of adapting to any environment." The hybrid child's attention was suddenly drawn to a large, pulsating crystal at the far end of the hangar. As they approached, the crystal reacted, emitting a soft blue glow. "The Nexus crystal," Dr. Lyra said, her voice filled with awe. "It's the cornerstone of our research, the key to unlocking the full potential of hybrid beings." Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the facility. Dr. Lyra's face paled. "The regulins," she gasped. "They've breached the outer defenses." Kevin and Nova moved instinctively to protect their child and the Nexus crystal. Commander Zara and Dr. Volkov rushed to assist Dr. Lyra in securing critical research data. The hybrid child, drawn by an irresistible pull, reached out and touched the Nexus crystal. A surge of energy coursed through their body, temporarily incapacitating them. Kevin and Nova watched in amazement as their child underwent another growth spurt, maturing into a fully grown adult with features that perfectly blended human and Daxamite characteristics. As the sound of approaching regulin forces echoed through the facility, the newly matured hybrid's eyes snapped open. They stretched out their hand, projecting a powerful energy field that sealed off the entrance to the hangar. "I can sense them," the hybrid said, their voice resonating with newfound power. "The regulins, their desperation, their fear. I understand now." The hybrid's eyes glowed as they reached out telepathically to the approaching regulin forces. In that moment of connection, a solution crystallized in their mind. "We don't have to fight," the hybrid announced, turning to face the group. "The key to resolving this conflict lies in collaboration. The Daxamite genetic research combined with regulin biotechnology. Together, they could cure the plague and unlock new potential for genetic compatibility across species." As the regulin forces burst into the hangar, weapons raised, the hybrid stepped forward. With a gesture, they expanded the energy field, creating a barrier between the two groups. "Wait," the hybrid called out, their voice carrying an otherworldly authority. "There's another way." Using their enhanced telepathic abilities, the hybrid projected their proposal to both the regulins and the Daxamite scientists. The sudden cessation of hostilities created a tense standoff. Kevin and Nova stood protectively near their child, ready to defend if necessary. Commander Zara and Dr. Lyra cautiously approached the regulin leaders, while Dr. Volkov continued to analyze the facility's research data on a nearby terminal. "There's more," the hybrid said, their eyes wide with the weight of their discovery. "The Nexus crystal has shown me Earth and the Daxamite homeworld share a common ancestral species, one that seeded both planets millennia ago." The revelation sent shockwaves through both groups. As the implications of this knowledge began to sink in, the hybrid looked around at the assembled beings, human, Daxamite, and regulin. "We stand at a crossroads," they said, their voice filled with conviction. "The decisions we make here, in this moment, will shape the future of all our species." The air in the hangar crackled with tension and possibility. Kevin and Nova exchanged glances, realizing that their journey and their child's destiny was just the beginning. As cautious negotiations began between the factions, the group found themselves at the center of a pivotal moment in galactic history, with the potential to forge a new era of interspecies cooperation and genetic advancement. The weight of the revelation hung in the air, a palpable force that seemed to suspend time itself. For a brief moment, the assembled beings stood in stunned silence, processing the implications of their shared ancestral heritage. But the moment was shattered as the Nexus crystal began to pulse with an alarming intensity. The hybrid's eyes widened, their body tensing as waves of energy coursed through them. "Something's wrong," they gasped, stumbling backward. Dr. Lyra rushed to a nearby console, her fingers flying over the controls. "The crystal's output is increasing exponentially," she announced, her voice tight with concern. "It's causing a cascade effect in our systems." As if to punctuate her words, the facility shuddered violently. Alarms blared, their shrill cries echoing through the cavernous hangar. Kevin moved swiftly to support the hybrid, his enhanced muscles tensing as he felt the tremors intensify. "We need to get you away from that crystal," he said urgently. Nova's hands glowed as she attempted to create an energy barrier between the hybrid and the pulsating crystal. "It's not working," she cried, her face strained with effort. "The connection is too strong." Dr. Lyra's eyes widened as she studied the readouts on her screen. "It's not just the facility," she said, her voice barely audible over the growing chaos. "The planet's core, it's becoming unstable. There's a rare element throughout the planet's crust that amplifies genetic manipulation processes. The hybrid's DNA combined with the Nexus crystal's power is activating it on a massive scale." Commander Zara's military training kicked in as he assessed the escalating situation. "We need to evacuate," he barked, activating his risk communicator. "All available ships, prepare for immediate planetary evacuation." As Zara coordinated with the orbiting vessels, Dr. Volkov worked feverishly alongside Dr. Lyra, their fingers dancing across holographic interfaces as they sought a solution to stabilize the crystal and safely disconnect the hybrid. The regulin leaders, their earlier hostility forgotten in the face of this new crisis, approached the group. "We may be able to help," the tallest among them said, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the pulsing light of the crystal. "We have a device, a biosynthetic interface that could potentially allow for a controlled separation." Dr. Lyra's silver eyes narrowed. "That technology hasn't been tested on a human Daxamite hybrid. The risks—" "May be our only option," Dr. Volkov interjected, looking up from his calculations. "At this rate, we have minutes before the reaction becomes irreversible." As the scientists debated, a new alarm sounded. Commander Zara's face paled as he studied the readout on his wrist device. "We have another problem," he announced grimly. "A large ship just entered the system. It's heading straight for us." The hybrid, still connected to the crystal, gasped as a vision flashed before their eyes. "The scrappers," they whispered, their voice filled with dread. "They're coming for the crystal." Kevin's lips pursed as he looked at Nova, then back to their child. "We need to move. Now." As if in response to the mounting tension, the Nexus crystal pulsed even more intensely. The hybrid cried out, their body arching as energy surged through them. The tremors intensified, dust and small debris raining down from the ceiling. "We're out of time, Mara," Dr. Lyra shouted over the din. She turned to the regulin leader, her expression grim. "Your device, how quickly can you have it ready?" The regulin's inner eyelids blinked rapidly as he consulted with his team. "Minutes, but the risk—" "Is one we have to take," Nova interrupted, her voice firm despite the fear in her eyes. She looked at Kevin, who nodded his agreement. As the regulins rushed to prepare their device, a booming voice filled the hangar, transmitted from the approaching ship. "Attention, inhabitants of this facility," the voice growled, its tone leaving no doubt as to its threatening nature. "This is Captain Zorn of the Scrappers. We claim salvage rights on the Nexus crystal and any other valuable technology. Surrender now or face the consequences." Commander Zara's eyes narrowed as he assessed their options. "Kevin," he called out, "we need to organize a defense. Can you—" Kevin nodded, already moving. "On it. I'll coordinate with the Daxamite security team and any regulins willing to fight." Nova stretched out her hands, channeling her energy into a shimmering barrier around the most critical sections of the facility. "I'll reinforce our defenses," she said, her voice strained with effort, "but I don't know how long I can hold it against their weapons." The hybrid, still connected to the pulsing crystal, suddenly went rigid. Their eyes glowed with an otherworldly light as a series of visions flashed through their mind. Glimpses of possible futures unfolded before them. The scrappers triumphant, the crystal's power unleashed across the galaxy with devastating consequences. But there were other visions too, of cooperation, of a future where the combined knowledge of humans, Daxamites, and regulins ushered in an era of unprecedented peace and advancement. As the visions faded, the hybrid made a decision. Drawing on reserves of strength they didn't know they possessed, they began to channel more power from the Nexus crystal. Their body started to glow, the light growing more intense with each passing second. "What are they doing?" Dr. Volkov gasped, shielding his eyes from the brilliance. Dr. Lyra's eyes widened as she studied her readings. They're establishing a telepathic link, not just with us, but with everyone in the star system. As Captain Zorn's ship entered orbit and began its assault on the planet's defenses, the hybrid unleashed their newfound power. A massive pulse of energy erupted from their body, radiating outward through the facility and beyond. For a moment, every piece of technology in the system went dark, including the scrapper's ship and weapons. In that moment of confusion, the hybrid's mind touched every consciousness within reach. Images flowed from them, visions of potential futures, the weight of choices yet to be made, the delicate balance upon which their shared destiny now teetered. As the pulse faded and systems began to flicker back to life, an eerie silence fell over the facility. The tremors had subsided, the planet's core stabilized by the hybrid's incredible display of power. Kevin and Nova rushed to their child's side as the hybrid slumped to the ground, exhausted by the enormous expenditure of energy. As they cradled their offspring, the assembled leaders of the Daxamites, regulins, and even the stunned scrappers found themselves faced with a choice that would shape the future of multiple civilizations. The hybrid's eyes fluttered open, meeting the concerned gazes of their parents. "It's not over," they whispered, their voice weak but filled with certainty. "This is just the beginning." As the dust settled and the immediate crisis passed, the true magnitude of what had transpired began to sink in. The family found themselves at the center of a rapidly evolving galactic situation, with the fate of multiple species hanging in the balance. The secrets of the Nexus crystal, the true potential of interspecies compatibility, and the hybrid's growing powers all remained to be fully understood. Commander Zara approached the group, his expression a mix of awe and commitment. "We need to secure the facility and open communications with the scrappers," he said, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Whatever happens next, we need to be prepared." As Kevin and Nova exchanged glances, they knew that their journey and their child's destiny had taken yet another unexpected turn. The challenges that lay ahead would test them in ways they had never imagined, but for now they had each other, and a fragile moment of peace in which to gather their strength for the trials to come. "Come!" The facility hummed with renewed activity as systems gradually flickered back to life. Kevin and Nova cradled their exhausted child, their faces etched with a mixture of awe and concern. The hybrid's eyes fluttered open, meeting their worried gazes. "I'm okay," the hybrid whispered, attempting a weak smile. "Just, tired." Before Kevin could respond, a commotion near the entrance drew their attention. Commander Zara strode purposefully towards them, his expression grim. "We have company," he announced, gesturing towards the main viewport. "Captain Zorn of the Scrappers has landed nearby. He's requesting a meeting." Nova's eyes narrowed. "After they just tried to attack us?" "The situation has changed," Zara replied, his tone measured. "Zorn claims he wants to negotiate. Given what just happened, I think we should hear him out." Kevin nodded, his enhanced muscles tensing as he gently lifted the hybrid. "Let's move to the conference room. It's more secure and we can keep an eye on the crystal from there." As they made their way through the facility's winding corridors, Dr. Lyra fell into step beside them. "The regulin representatives are already waiting," she informed them, and I've asked Dr. Volkov to join us. His expertise might prove valuable. The conference room buzzed with tension as the various factions assembled. Kevin and Nova took positions near their child, who insisted on attending despite their protests. Commander Zara stood at the head of the table, his posture rigid as Captain Zorn entered, flanked by his cybernetically enhanced crew. Zorn's mismatched eyes, one organic, one a glowing cybernetic implant, swept the room. "Quite the gathering," he rumbled, his voice a mix of organic gravel and synthetic undertones. "I must admit, I'm impressed by the little light show earlier. Changed the game entirely, didn't it?" "Why are you here, Zorn?" Zara demanded, cutting straight to the point. The scrapper captain's lips curled into a smirk. "To offer a deal, of course. You have something I want, and I have something you need." As negotiations began in earnest, Kevin found his attention divided between the tense discussions and his child's condition. The hybrid's breathing had become labored, its skin taking on a concerning pallor. Nova leaned in close, her voice barely above a whisper. "Something's wrong. We need to get them checked out." Before Kevin could respond, Dr. Volkov's excited voice cut through the tension in the room. "Extraordinary. Simply extraordinary." All eyes turned to the scientist as he pored over a series of holographic readouts. The combination of the planet's unique element, regulin biotechnology, and our own genetic research, it's created something entirely new. Dr. Lyra moved swiftly to Volkov's side, her silver eyes widening as she absorbed the data. "A universal adaptive genome? But that's impossible," Volkov finished, a rare smile crossing his features. "Not anymore." The implications of this discovery sent a ripple of excitement and apprehension through the gathered factions. However, the moment was shattered as the hybrid suddenly convulsed, a cry of pain escaping its lips. "No!" Nova exclaimed, cradling their child as Kevin moved to support them both. Dr. Lyra rushed to their side, her fingers dancing over a portable medical scanner. The connection to the crystal, the energy expenditure, it's created a dangerous imbalance in their physiology. As panic threatened to overtake the room, an unexpected voice cut through the chaos. "I can help!" All eyes turned to Captain Zorn, who had stepped forward, his cybernetic eye glowing with increased intensity. "My chief medical officer, Dr. Ilara, is a regulin defector with extensive knowledge of xenobiology. Combined with our cybernetic medical tech, we might be able to stabilize the hybrid's condition." Kevin and Nova exchanged a look, years of unspoken communication passing between them in an instant. They nodded in unison, their desperation to save their child overriding any lingering mistrust. "Do it," Kevin said firmly. As Dr. Ilara set to work, her movements a blur of efficiency, the faction leaders huddled together. The stakes had changed dramatically in the span of a few minutes, and a new reality was taking shape. "We need to work together," Commander Zara stated, his voice carrying the weight of command. "The universal adaptive genome, the hybrid's abilities, the Nexus crystal, separately, they're powerful. Together, they could reshape the galaxy." Captain Zorn nodded, his cybernetic implants whirring softly as he processed the situation. "My network can provide distribution and protection. We ensure this technology reaches those who need it most, not just the highest bidder." As the leaders hammered out the details of their fragile alliance, Kevin and Nova kept a constant vigil over their child. Dr. Ilara worked tirelessly, her multiple arms moving with practiced precision as she integrated scrapper tech with the hybrid's unique physiology. Hours passed in a blur of activity. Scientists from all factions began collaborating, their previous rivalries set aside in the face of this unprecedented opportunity. The facility, so recently a battlefield, was transformed into a hub of frenzied research and development. As the first rays of the planet's twin suns began to peek over the horizon, Dr. Ilara finally stepped back from the hybrid's bedside. "It's done," she announced, her multifaceted eyes blinking rapidly. "We've stabilized their condition, but—" "But what?" Nova pressed, her hand intertwined with Kevin's. "The connection to the Nexus crystal is part of who they are now," Ilara explained. "We can manage it, but severing it completely could be catastrophic. Your child's powers will continue to grow and change, We'll need to monitor them closely. As this news sank in, the hybrid's eyes fluttered open. A small smile played across their lips as they took in the gathered crowd. I saw so much, they whispered. So many possibilities. Kevin squeezed his child's hand gently. Rest now. We'll figure this out together. As the family shared a moment of relative calm, the facility around them continued to buzz with activity. The alliance was fragile, the technology still in its infancy, and the future uncertain. But for now at least, there was hope. Little did they know that this moment of peace was merely the calm before the storm. In the shadows of the facility, Dr. Vex, a hardline Daxamite purist, watched the proceedings with narrowed eyes. His fingers danced across a hidden communicator, sending encrypted messages to like-minded individuals across the galaxy. The dilution of our genetic superiority has begun, he murmured to his unseen allies. We must act quickly. As the first phase of the Universal Adaptive Genome Project got underway, the hybrid's powers continued to manifest in unexpected ways. Objects would occasionally shift without being touched, and flashes of precognitive visions became more frequent. Each new development brought both excitement and concern to the research team. Captain Zorn, true to his word, began leveraging his vast network of contacts. News of the project spread like wildfire across the galaxy, attracting attention from countless species and factions. Some saw hope for a brighter future, while others perceived a threat to the established order. Kevin and Nova found themselves at the center of a rapidly expanding web of galactic politics. They worked tirelessly, dividing their time between protecting their child and ensuring the project's success. The weight of their responsibilities was immense, but they shouldered it together, their bond stronger than ever. As the days blurred into weeks, the hybrid's recovery progressed steadily. Its connection to the Nexus crystal stabilized, allowing for more controlled access to its incredible abilities. During one of the daily checkups, the hybrid's eyes suddenly went wide, its body tensing as if in the grip of a vision. What is it? Kevin asked, instantly alert. What do you see? The hybrid's voice was barely above a whisper, filled with a mixture of wonder and urgency. A planet, hidden from all maps. It holds the key to everything we've been working towards. As the implications of this revelation began to sink in, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Commander Zara's voice crackled over the intercom, tension evident in his tone. We have multiple incoming ships, he announced. Origins unknown. All personnel, prepare for possible hostilities. Kevin and Nova exchanged a determined look. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, as a family, and as part of this unprecedented alliance. The next chapter of their journey was about to unfold, promising new discoveries, dangers, and the potential to reshape the very fabric of galactic society. The alarms continued to blare as Kevin and Nova exchanged a determined glance. They knew what needed to be done. We have to find that planet, Kevin said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them. Nova nodded, cradling their child close. It's our best chance to understand everything that's happening. The hybrid's eyes flickered open, their voice weak but resolute. I can help. I can feel it calling to me. Dr. Lyra approached, concern etched on her features. The hybrid's condition is still unstable. We need to monitor them closely during any expedition. As if on cue, the scientists produced a compact device, its surface a blend of sleek metal and pulsing biocircuits. I've developed a portable version of the stabilization unit. It should help regulate their energy levels, but we'll need to be cautious. Captain Zorn strode into the room, his cybernetic eye whirring as it took in the scene. If you're planning an expedition, you'll need a ship. My scout vessel, the Starfire, is the fastest in the quadrant. I'm offering its use, but I'm coming along. This could be the score of a lifetime. Kevin opened his mouth to protest, but Nova placed a hand on his arm. We could use the help, she said softly, and we might need his connections if things go sideways. Before they could discuss further, the facility's systems flickered ominously. Holographic displays distorted, and the low hum of machinery took on a discordant tone. We're under attack, Commander Zara's voice crackled over the intercom. Someone's unleashed a virus in our mainframe. All research data is at risk. Kevin's enhanced muscles tensed. The Universal Adaptive Genome Project. We can't lose that data. Without hesitation, he sprinted from the room, his augmented speed carrying him through the facility's winding corridors. He could hear Nova shouting instructions behind him, organizing a defense against potential physical intruders. Kevin reached the central server room, his enhanced reflexes allowing him to dodge panicked personnel and malfunctioning equipment. Inside, holographic displays flashed with cascading lines of corrupted code. With no time for finesse, Kevin located the main power coupling for the affected systems. Gritting his teeth, he gripped the massive cable and pulled. There was a moment of resistance before the connection separated with a shower of sparks. The virus's advance halted, but the damage was extensive. As Kevin caught his breath, he activated his comm unit. I've stopped it, but we've lost a significant portion of the data. We need to get to that planet more than ever now. Returning to the others, Kevin found Nova working alongside a team of regulin biotechnologists. They were synthesizing a series of vials filled with shimmering, iridescent liquid. Adaptive medicines, Nova explained, noticing his questioning look. They should help protect us from unknown environmental hazards on the hidden planet. As they prepared for departure, a commotion at the facility's entrance drew their attention. A striking woman with piercing eyes and an air of nearly unleashed energy strode purposefully towards them. Dr. Zara, Kevin growled, recognizing the rogue Daxamite scientist who had once pursued their child on Earth. Zara raised her hands in a placating gesture. I'm not here to fight. I have information about the hidden planet, information you need if you hope to find it. Captain Zorn stepped forward, his cybernetic eye fixed on Zara. I say we bring her along. Knowledge is power, and we need every advantage we can get. Kevin and Nova exchanged a wary glance, but nodded their agreement. The stakes were too high to turn away potentially crucial information. As the expedition team boarded the Starfire, tension hung thick in the air. Kevin and Nova kept a watchful eye on their child, while Dr. Lyra monitored the portable stabilization device. Captain Zorn manned the bridge, with his grizzled chief engineer, Grex, ensuring the ship's systems were primed for the journey ahead. The moment they began liftoff procedures, alarms blared throughout the ship. The facility's defense systems had been activated, targeting the Starfire with a barrage of energy weapons. Daxamite purists, Dr. Zara shouted, recognizing the attack pattern. They're trying to stop us from leaving. Kevin leapt into action, taking control of the ship's weapon systems. His enhanced reflexes allowed him to target the facility's defenses with surgical precision, disabling them without causing casualties. Nova stood at his side, her hands outstretched as she projected a shimmering energy field around the ship. Incoming fire dissipated harmlessly against the barrier. In the ship's medical bay, the hybrid's eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. Port side, 30 degrees, they called out, their voice echoing with power. There's a gap in their defenses. Captain Zorn didn't hesitate, adjusting their course to take advantage of the opening. The Starfire shot through the gap, streaking towards the upper atmosphere. As they broke free of the planet's gravity well, long-range sensors lit up with multiple contacts. A pursuing fleet of ships appeared on the scanners. A motley assortment of vessels representing various factions eager to claim the hidden planet for themselves. Hold on tight, Captain Zorn growled, his hands dancing over the ship's controls. This is going to get rough. The Starfire plunged into a nearby asteroid field, its agile frame weaving between massive chunks of space rock. Behind them, explosions blossomed as less skilled pilots met their end among the asteroids. Despite Zorn's impressive piloting, the ship shuddered as glancing blows struck its hull. Warning lights flashed across the bridge, indicating multiple systems failures. We can't take much more of this, Grex shouted from the engine room, his voice strained. We need to set down for repairs or we'll be dead in the water. Captain Zorn's organic eye narrowed as he scanned the sector map. There, he said, pointing to a desolate moon orbiting a gas giant. We can lose them in the planet's radiation belt and make repairs on the far side of that moon. As the Starfire limped towards their temporary haven, Kevin and Nova shared a look of iron will. Their journey to the hidden planet had only just begun, and already the odds seemed stacked against them. But with their child's future, and perhaps the future of the entire galaxy hanging in the balance, failure was not an option. An option. The Starfire streaked through space, its hull groaning under the strain of their desperate escape. Alarms blared throughout the ship as Grex's voice crackled over the intercom. "Captain, we've got multiple system failures. We need to set down for repairs or we'll be space debris." Captain Zorn's organic eye darted across the sector map, searching for a safe haven. His cybernetic implant whirred as it processed the data. "There," he announced, gesturing to a massive gas giant with several moons orbiting it. "It's not on any of our charts, but that largest moon looks promising." As they approached the gas giant, the ship shuddered violently. Kevin gripped the arms of his seat, his enhanced muscles tensing. "Nova, can you give us any more protection?" Nova's brow furrowed in concentration as she extended her hands, projecting a shimmering energy field around the Starfire. "I'm trying, but the strain is immense." The ship plunged into the moon's atmosphere, buffeted by fierce winds and electrical storms. Kevin sprang into action, his augmented reflexes allowing him to manually override the failing landing gear. Sparks flew from the console as he wrestled with the controls. "Brace for impact," Zorn shouted as the Starfire careened toward the surface. With a bone-jarring thud, the ship skidded across the rocky terrain before coming to a stop. For a moment, silence reigned as the crew caught their breath. Kevin was the first to move, rushing to check on their child. The hybrid's eyes fluttered open, a weak smile playing across their lips. "I'm okay," they whispered. Dr. Lyra immediately began scanning the hybrid with her portable device. "The landing hasn't worsened their condition, but we need to be cautious." Outside the viewports, they could see the harsh landscape of the moon stretching out before them. The atmosphere was thin, and extreme temperature fluctuations were already causing the ship's hull to creak and groan. Nova stepped forward, her hands glowing with energy. "I can create a protective bubble around the landing site. It should allow us to work without environmental suits." As Nova extended her power, forming a shimmering dome around the Starfire, the crew disembarked to assess the damage. Grex ran his hands along the ship's scorched hull, muttering curses under his breath. "It's bad, but not irreparable," he announced. "Give me a few hours and I can get us airborne again." Suddenly, the hybrid gasped, their eyes wide. "I can feel it. Something like the Nexus crystal. It's calling to me." Dr. Lyra frowned, concern etched on her features. "Your condition is still unstable. We shouldn't risk." "We have to investigate," Kevin interrupted, his voice firm. "It could be the key to finding the hidden planet." After a brief discussion, it was decided that Kevin, Nova, Captain Zorn, Dr. Zara, and the hybrid would set out to locate the energy source, while the rest of the crew remained with the ship. The small group trekked across the moon's rugged terrain, navigating treacherous canyons and fields of erupting geothermal geysers. Kevin's enhanced strength proved invaluable as he helped the others across particularly dangerous stretches. Hours passed as they followed the hybrid's directions. The child's connection to the energy source seemed to grow stronger with each step, but it also caused visible discomfort. Finally, they crested a ridge and saw their destination, a small, ancient outpost built into the side of a mountain. Strange markings, similar to those they had encountered before, adorned its weathered surface. Dr. Zara stepped forward, her eyes gleaming with recognition. "This architecture, it's reminiscent of ancient Daxamite design, but far more advanced." As they approached, the hybrid's discomfort intensified. Kevin placed a steadying hand on his child's shoulder. "We can turn back if it's too much." The hybrids shook their head, determined. "No, we need to see this through." Dr. Zara identified a hidden entrance mechanism, and working together, Kevin and Captain Zorn managed to activate it. The ancient door groaned open, revealing a dark passageway leading into the mountain's depths. As they cautiously entered, holographic projections of an unknown alien species flickered to life around them. The beings spoke in a language none of them understood, yet the hybrids seemed transfixed, attempting to communicate with the apparitions. Suddenly, the outpost hummed with awakening energy. Hidden machinery whirred to life, and a central chamber illuminated, revealing a smaller version of the Nexus crystal. Before anyone could react, the hybrid broke free from Kevin's grasp and approached the crystal. "No!" Nova cried out, but it was too late. The moment the hybrid touched the crystal, a surge of energy coursed through their body. The child collapsed and Kevin rushed to catch them. In that instant, a series of vivid images flooded the minds of everyone present. They saw fragments of star maps, glimpses of colossal structures spanning entire solar systems, and flashes of an ancient civilization that once ruled the galaxy. The visions faded, leaving the group disoriented. Dr. Lyra's stabilization device sparked and sputtered, its circuits overloaded by the energy surge. "The hybrid's powers are fluctuating dangerously," she warned, frantically trying to recalibrate the device. Around them, the very fabric of space seemed to warp. Objects began to float, and gravitational anomalies rippled through the chamber. Captain Zorn's voice cut through the chaos. "We need to get out of here now." Kevin scooped up the unconscious hybrid, while Nova used her energy manipulation to clear a path through the destabilizing structure. Dr. Zara, in an unexpected show of cooperation, assisted Dr. Lyra with the malfunctioning device as they fled. They emerged from the outpost to find the entire moon shaking beneath their feet. Massive fissures spider-webbed across the surface, and in the distance, mountains began to crumble. "Run!" Kevin shouted, cradling the hybrid close to his chest as they sprinted back towards the starfire. The ground heaved and buckled beneath them, forcing the group to leap across ever-widening chasms. Nova's energy projections created temporary bridges where needed, allowing them to keep moving forward. As they approached the landing site, they saw Grex and the regulin scientists scrambling to complete the final repairs on the starfire. The ship's engines were already powering up, ready for an emergency takeoff. "We're out of time," Grex bellowed over the din of the collapsing moon. "It's now or never." Kevin and Nova shared a determined look. Together, they channeled their abilities to create a makeshift energy shield around the starfire, protecting it from the worst of the debris as the crew boarded. The ship's engines roared to life, lifting off just as the ground beneath it gave way. Through the viewports, they watched in awe as the entire moon broke apart, revealing a massive, planet-sized crystal at its core. As they breached the atmosphere, the starfire's sensors were overwhelmed by the energy signature emanating from the crystal. New data flooded their systems, providing tantalizing clues about the location of the hidden planet they sought. In the medical bay, Dr. Lyra worked feverishly to stabilize the hybrid's condition. Kevin and Nova stood watch, their faces etched with worry. On the bridge, Captain Zorn's expression darkened as he studied the long-range sensors. "We've got company," he growled. "Multiple ships converging on our location. They must have detected the energy surge." The crew of the Starfire found themselves caught between the promise of their destination and the threat of their pursuers. With their systems barely functioning and the hybrid's condition uncertain, they faced a perilous journey through the depths of space. As Zorn plotted a course that he hoped would throw off their pursuers, Kevin and Nova exchanged a look of fierce dedication. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, for the sake of their child and the future of the galaxy. The Starfire's engines flared, propelling them deeper into the unknown reaches of space, where ancient secrets and new dangers awaited. The Starfire's engines strained against the vastness of space, pushing the ship to its limits as it raced towards its elusive destination. Suddenly, a violent tremor rocked the ship. In the medical bay, the hybrid child's body arched, eyes snapping open as a pulse of energy erupted from their small frame. The ship's lights flickered, and alarms blared throughout the vessel. Kevin gripped the edge of the medical bed, his enhanced muscles tensing. "Nova, what's happening?" Nova's hands glowed as she attempted to contain the energy surging from their child. "The energy from the crystal, it's destabilizing the ship's systems." Dr. Lyra rushed to the malfunctioning stabilization device, her fingers flying over its controls. "We need to recalibrate. The surge from the outpost overloaded its circuits." On the bridge, Captain Zorn growled as he wrestled with the controls. The pursuing fleet's signals blinked ominously on the long-range scanners. "Grex, I need more power to the engines." "I'm giving her all she's got, Captain." Grex's voice crackled over the intercom, punctuated by the sound of sparking wires. Any more and we'll blow the whole system. Zorn's organic eye narrowed as he assessed their options. With a swift motion, he yanked the controls, sending the Starfire into a steep dive towards the debris field left by the destroyed moon. "Hold on tight," he shouted as massive chunks of rock hurtled past the viewports. The ship weaved and ducked, narrowly avoiding collisions as Zorn's expert piloting guided them through the treacherous field. In the medical bay, Kevin and Nova worked in tandem, their bond stronger than ever as they fought to stabilize their child. Nova's energy manipulation formed a cocoon around the hybrid, while Kevin used his augmented strength to hold the medical equipment steady against the ship's wild maneuvers. Dr. Lyra and Dr. Zara, their rivalry momentarily forgotten, huddled over a console analyzing the data from the ancient outpost. "These readings," Dr. Zara muttered, her eyes wide with excitement. "They're unlike anything I've ever seen." "Look at this." Dr. Lyra pointed to a series of complex equations scrolling across the screen. "It's a cloaking algorithm, far more advanced than anything in known space." As they delved deeper into the data, the hybrid child's eyes fluttered open, glowing with an otherworldly light. It spoke, its voice a melodic blend of unknown sounds. Dr. Zara's head snapped up, her expression one of awe. "That language, it's similar to the inscriptions we found in the outpost." The child's gaze focused on a point in space, seemingly seeing beyond the ship's hull. Its small hand reached out, fingers splayed as if touching an invisible barrier. Suddenly, the space before them shimmered and distorted. The crew watched in amazement as a massive structure materialized from the void. A Dyson sphere encompassing a small star, its surface a breathtaking array of sprawling cities and vast energy collection arrays. "By the stars," Captain Zorn breathed, his cybernetic eye whirring as it attempted to process the scale of the construct before them. Before they could fully comprehend the magnitude of their discovery, the sensors blared a warning. The pursuing fleet had emerged from hyperspace, their ships converging on the Starfire's position. "Evasive maneuvers," Zorn shouted, but the controls sluggishly responded. The Starfire groaned under the strain, its systems failing as it fought against the Dyson sphere's immense gravitational pull. In a moment of desperate inspiration, Kevin turned to Nova. "The hybrid, its connection to the Nexus crystal. Maybe it can interface with the sphere's defenses." Nova nodded, her hands already glowing as she created a protective bubble around their child. The hybrid's eyes glowed brighter, its small body rigid with concentration. On the surface of the Dyson sphere, massive energy weapons emerged from hidden compartments. They swiveled with impossible precision, targeting the pursuing fleet. In a matter of seconds, each ship was struck by a beam of energy, their systems going dark as they drifted powerlessly in space. As the immediate threat dissipated, a new signal appeared on the Starfire's communications array. A holographic image flickered to life on the bridge, revealing a being that seemed to be a perfect amalgamation of various species, including human and Daxamite. "Greetings, travelers," the being's voice resonated with an ageless wisdom. "I am the curator, caretaker of this repository. You have proven yourselves worthy of the knowledge contained within." The crew of the Starfire exchanged looks of wonder and apprehension as the curator continued. "This sphere is a genetic archive, housing the combined knowledge and genetic material of thousands of species across the galaxy. The Nexus crystals were created as keys, meant to be discovered only by those ready to wield such power responsibly." As the curator spoke, the hybrid child's condition stabilized, its connection to the Nexus crystal seeming to strengthen rather than harm it. Kevin and Nova embraced their child, relief washing over them. The curator extended an invitation to dock with the Dyson sphere, offering access to knowledge that could revolutionize their understanding of genetics and potentially solve the regulin plague. However, a warning accompanied the offer. This knowledge carried great responsibility and potential danger if misused. Captain Zorn's eyes gleamed with the prospect of the ultimate salvage. "This is the opportunity of a lifetime. We'd be fools to turn it down." Dr. Lyra and Dr. Zara nodded in agreement, their scientific curiosity overriding any lingering rivalry. Kevin and Nova, however, exchanged worried glances, considering the implications for their child and the factions back in known space. As the crew debated their next move, the long-range sensors lit up once more. The disabled fleet had managed to send out a distress call, and reinforcements from various factions were en route. The hybrid child, now fully recovered, tugged at Kevin's sleeve, its eyes bright with curiosity and an eagerness to explore the sphere. Kevin looked to Nova, both of them torn between parental instinct and the potential benefits of this monumental discovery. With time running out and the weight of their decision bearing down upon them, the crew of the Starfire stood at the threshold of a choice that would shape not only their own fates, but potentially the course of galactic history itself. The crew of the Starfire exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of excitement and trepidation. After a moment of silent deliberation, Captain Zorn nodded decisively. "We accept your invitation, Curator," he said, his voice steady despite the weight of the decision. As if in response to their choice, the Dyson sphere's surface shimmered, revealing an intricate docking bay. The Starfire's engines hummed as Zorn expertly guided the ship towards the opening. Energy beams emanated from the sphere, gently cradling the vessel and guiding it to a perfect landing. The ship settled with a soft thud, and the crew gathered near the airlock. Kevin held the hybrid child close, while Nova stood protectively at their side. Dr. Lyra and Dr. Zara clutched their data pads, eyes bright with scientific curiosity. Captain Zorn checked his sidearm out of habit, then thought better of it and left it holstered. As the airlock hissed open, a group of sleek metallic robots greeted them. Their smooth surfaces reflected the ambient light, and their movements were fluid and precise. "Please follow us," one of the robots intoned, its voice surprisingly melodic. "You will need to pass through decontamination before entering the main facility." The group followed their robotic guides through a series of chambers. Beams of light swept over them, and a fine mist enveloped their bodies, leaving them refreshed and tingling. Once cleared, they stepped into a vast chamber that took their breath away. Holographic displays floated in midair, showing star maps, genetic sequences, and technologies beyond their comprehension. Data terminals lined the walls, their screens alive with scrolling information. The Curator materialized before them, its form shifting fluidly between various species. One moment it appeared human, the next regulin, then something entirely alien and unknown. "Welcome," the Curator said, its voice resonating with ancient wisdom. "You stand in the heart of a legacy left by the progenitors, the creators of the Nexus crystals and this Dyson sphere." As the Curator spoke, the hybrid child in Kevin's arms began to stir. Its eyes opened wide, glowing with an inner light that pulsed in rhythm with the energy flows visible throughout the chamber. Kevin felt a surge of warmth from the child, and suddenly its appearance began to change. "Nova," Kevin whispered urgently, "look at our child." Nova watched in astonishment as their offspring's features shifted and morphed. One moment, its skin took on a metallic sheen like the regulins. The next, it sprouted delicate tendrils reminiscent of a species they had never encountered. The child's body seemed to be rapidly cycling through the genetic information stored within the sphere. While Kevin and Nova focused on their transforming child, Dr. Lyra and Dr. Zara wasted no time. They approached the nearest data terminals, their fingers flying over the interfaces as they began to access the vast database. "This is incredible," Dr. Lyra breathed, her eyes widening as she scrolled through the information. "The genetic data here, it could revolutionize our understanding of evolution across the galaxy." Dr. Zara nodded, her usual competitiveness forgotten in the face of such monumental discovery. "Look here," she pointed to a complex molecular structure on her screen. "This could be the key to curing the regulin plague. And not just that, there are potential treatments for genetic disorders affecting dozens of species." As the scientists worked feverishly to download as much data as possible, Captain Zorn found his attention drawn to the technology surrounding them. His cybernetic eye whirred as he scanned the room, cataloging the advanced systems and artifacts. Unable to resist the temptation, he casually reached out to pocket a small crystalline device. The moment his fingers closed around the object, an energy field sprang to life around him, freezing him in place. Alarms blared throughout the chamber, and the curator's form solidified, its expression stern. "Captain Zorn," the curator's voice was tinged with disappointment, "I must caution you against such actions. The technology here is not to be removed or misused." Zorn's organic eye widened in shock as he found himself unable to move or speak. The curator waved a hand and the energy field dissipated, releasing the captain. "I apologize," Zorn said, his voice gruff with embarrassment. "Old habits die hard, I suppose." The curator's form shifted, taking on an appearance that seemed to blend elements of all those present. "Your apology is accepted, but let this serve as a warning. The progenitor's civilization fell due to the misuse of their own creations. We must not repeat their mistakes." As the group absorbed this sobering information, a piercing alarm cut through the air. The curator's form flickered, its expression grave. "We have intruders," it announced. "Multiple ships have breached our outer defenses and are attempting to force entry." The hybrid child suddenly stiffened in Kevin's arms, its eyes glowing brighter than ever. It reached out a hand, seemingly grasping at invisible threads of data in the air. "The child," the curator said, its voice urgent, "it has detected a familiar energy signature among the invaders. One of them possesses a fragment of a nexus crystal." Kevin and Nova exchanged worried glances. "Dr. Vex," they said in unison, recognizing the threat posed by the leader of the Daxamite purists. The curator's form began to pulse with energy. "I am initiating emergency protocols to relocate the Dyson sphere to a safer location in space-time. But the process will take time to complete." It turned to Kevin, Nova, and their child. "I need your help to defend the sphere's critical systems while we prepare for relocation. Your unique abilities, combined with the child's growing connection to our systems, may be our best defense." As if in response to the curator's words, the hybrid child's body glowed with newfound power. It floated out of Kevin's arms, hovering between its parents. "We'll do whatever it takes," Nova said, her hands already glowing with energy. Kevin nodded, his enhanced muscles tensing for the fight ahead. "Just tell us what you need us to do." The curator gestured, and a three-dimensional map of the Dyson sphere appeared before them. "Coordinate with the sphere's defensive systems. Use your abilities to repel the invaders and protect our core functions." As Kevin, Nova, and their child prepared to defend the sphere, Dr. Lyra and Dr. Zara redoubled their efforts to download critical data. Captain Zorn, eager to redeem himself, stepped forward. "I may have made a mistake earlier," he said, his voice firm with persistence. "But I know ship combat. Let me help coordinate your defenses." The curator nodded and a control interface materialized before Zorn. The captain's fingers danced across the controls, his expertise evident as he began to direct the sphere's external defenses. Outside, the invading fleet pressed their attack, their ships a mix of Daxamite vessels and other factions drawn by the promise of the sphere's power. Energy beams lanced out from the sphere's surface, scattering the first wave of attackers. But as the defenders watched, a single ship broke through the perimeter, its hull glowing with the telltale energy of a nexus crystal fragment. Dr. Vex had arrived, and the true battle for the Dyson sphere was about to begin. The hybrid child's eyes locked onto the approaching ship, its body tensing in Kevin's arms. As if responding to an unspoken command, the child began to float, its form glowing with an otherworldly light. "We need to act now," the curator's voice resonated through the chamber. "The child has sensed the danger and is prepared to interface with our core systems." Kevin and Nova exchanged a worried glance, but they knew what had to be done. With a nod of silent agreement, they stepped back, allowing their offspring to hover between them. "We're here for you," Nova whispered, her voice thick with emotion. The child turned, its eyes meeting those of its parents. In that moment, a surge of understanding passed between them. Then, without warning, the child shot toward the center of the chamber, its body elongating into a stream of pure energy. As the hybrid merged with the sphere's central control matrix, the air crackled with power. Holographic displays flickered and pulsed, data streams accelerating to a blur. The child's form became indistinct, shifting and morphing as it channeled the immense power required to initiate the stasis field. Suddenly, alarms blared. The curator's form flickered urgently. Intruders have breached our defenses. They're headed for this chamber. As if on cue, the far wall exploded inward. Through the smoke and debris stepped Dr. Vex, flanked by a team of Daxamite purists. Their eyes gleamed with fanatical purpose. "Stop this abomination!" Dr. Vex roared, pointing at the hybrid child. Kevin's muscles tensed, his enhanced physiology primed for action. Nova's hands began to glow with impossibly strong energy. Without a word, they launched themselves at the intruders. The chamber erupted into chaos. Kevin engaged two Daxamite warriors, his augmented strength allowing him to match their superior abilities. He ducked under a wild swing, countering with a swift uppercut that sent one attacker flying. Nova weaved through the air, energy bolts flying from her fingertips. She created force fields to deflect incoming attacks, while simultaneously unleashing concentrated bursts of power that left Daxamite purists stunned and dazed. Captain Zorn, seeing an opportunity for redemption, sprinted to a nearby control panel. His cybernetic eye whirred as he interfaced with the security systems. "Let's even the odds," he muttered, fingers flying across the holographic interface. Panels slid open in the walls and floor, revealing hidden defense turrets. They sprang to life, targeting the Daxamite intruders with precision. Stun beams crisscrossed the chamber, adding to the mayhem. Amidst the battle, Dr. Lyra and Dr. Zara worked feverishly at their terminals. "Transfer at 85%, Dr. Lyra called out, her eyes never leaving the screen. "We need more time." Dr. Zara nodded, her fingers a blur as she worked. "Rerouting power to boost transfer speed. We can't let this data be lost." The hybrid child, now fully integrated with the sphere's core, began to pulse with waves of energy. Each pulse seemed to ripple through reality itself, causing time to stutter and slow around them. Dr. Vex, noticing the effect, snarled in frustration. He shoved aside his own men, making a desperate lunge toward the child. "I won't let you trap us here," he roared. Kevin saw the movement out of the corner of his eye. Without hesitation, he launched himself at Dr. Vex, intercepting him midair. The two crashed into a nearby control panel, sparks flying as they grappled. "Nova!" Kevin called out, struggling to keep Dr. Vex pinned. "The panel!" Nova turned, seeing the damaged controls. She immediately understood the danger. Flying over, she placed her hands on the sparking panel, her face contorted with concentration as she channeled her energy manipulation abilities, stabilizing the fluctuating power flow. The stasis field intensified, time slowing to a crawl around them. Dr. Vex's movements became sluggish, his face frozen in a mask of rage. Kevin felt his own limbs growing heavy, his thoughts becoming syrupy and slow. The last thing he saw before time stopped completely was Nova's face, her eyes locked with his in a moment of shared willpower and love. Then stillness. The chamber, once a whirlwind of action, stood frozen. Kevin and Dr. Vex remained locked in their struggle. Nova hovered by the damaged panel, energy crackling around her hands. Dr. Lyra and Dr. Zara were captured in mid-motion, their faces masks of intense concentration. Outside the sphere, the invading fleet found their weapons useless against the time-frozen structure. Their ships hung motionless in space, unable to advance or retreat. Within the stasis field, time ceased to have meaning. What felt like an eternity passed in the blink of an eye. The curator, existing partly outside normal space-time, guided the massive Dyson sphere to its new home. Then, as suddenly as it had stopped, time began to flow again. The stasis field dissipated, reality rushing back like a flood. Kevin felt his muscles unlock, momentum carrying him and Dr. Vex to the floor. Around the chamber, Daxamite purists stumbled and fell, disoriented by the sudden return to normal time. Nova gasped as sensation returned, nearly losing her grip on the repaired panel. She steadied herself, watching as the hybrid child began to disengage from the sphere's core. As the child's form solidified, Kevin and Nova stared in awe. Their offspring had changed, its body now a perfect blend of human, Daxamite, and a dozen other species. The child opened its eyes, filled with newfound wisdom and power. Captain Zorn shook his head, clearing the last effects of the time freeze. He quickly assessed the situation, barking orders to secure the stunned Daxamite intruders. The curator materialized, its form more solid than before. "Congratulations," it said, its voice filled with genuine warmth. "You have successfully defended the repository and ensured its safety." As the group gathered their wits, a new holographic display sprang to life. It showed a view of space outside the sphere, a vista of unfamiliar stars and swirling nebulae. "Where are we?" Dr. Lyra asked, her scientific curiosity overriding her fatigue. The curator's form shifted, taking on aspects of their new stellar neighborhood. "We are in an uncharted system, far from known space. Here the repository will be safe from those who would misuse its power." As the implications of their new situation sank in, the curator continued, "You now face a choice. You may return to your own time and space with the knowledge you've gained, or you may stay and help establish a new center of learning using the sphere's resources." Before anyone could respond, an alarm chimed softly. The curator's expression changed, a mix of surprise and intrigue crossing its features. "Fascinating," it murmured. "It seems our journey through space-time has created temporal distortions in nearby space. These anomalies could potentially allow travel to different time periods or even alternate realities." The hybrid child stepped forward, its new form radiating an aura of possibility. It turned to Kevin and Nova, then looked at the assembled group. In its eyes, they saw the promise of new adventures, new discoveries, and challenges yet to come. As the weight of their decisions settled upon them, the group stood at the threshold of a new chapter in their journey. The path they chose would not only shape their own destinies, but potentially alter the course of history for countless civilizations across time and space. As the group stood contemplating their next move, the hybrid child stepped forward, its newly evolved form radiating an aura of wisdom beyond its years. It turned to Kevin and Nova, then addressed the assembled team. "We have a unique opportunity here," the child said, its voice a melodious blend of human and alien tones. "We can use this sphere to create a nexus of knowledge and discovery, unlike anything the universe has ever seen." Kevin and Nova exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them. After a moment, Nova spoke up. "We agree. We should stay, at least for now. There's so much we can learn here, so much good we can do." The curator's form shimmered with approval. "A wise choice. I will provide you with the necessary resources to establish a research center and explore the temporal anomalies safely." Over the next few weeks, the team worked tirelessly to set up their new base of operations. Dr. Lyra and Dr. Zara threw themselves into analyzing the vast stores of data within the sphere, while Kevin and Nova focused on understanding the temporal distortions that surrounded them. The hybrid child, with its innate connection to the sphere's systems, made a breakthrough that stunned even the curator. It discovered a method to create controlled temporal portals, allowing brief but stable connections to different time periods and alternate realities. "This is incredible," Dr. Lyra breathed, examining the first stable portal. It shimmered before them, a window into another world. The scientific possibilities are endless. With careful planning and rigorous safety protocols in place, the team began a series of expeditions through these portals. Each journey brought new wonders and challenges. During one such expedition, they stepped through a portal into a version of Earth that took their breath away. Gleaming cities stretched to the horizon, their architecture a harmonious blend of human and Daxamite design. In the skies above, humans and Daxamites flew side by side, their coexistence a picture of peace and unity. "It's beautiful," Nova whispered, her eyes wide with wonder. A local scientist, Dr. Alira, greeted them warmly. "Welcome, travelers. We detected your arrival and are honored to host you." As they toured this alternate Earth, Kevin and Nova were struck by the advanced genetic engineering techniques that had allowed humans and Daxamites to thrive together. They collected samples and data, eager to bring this knowledge back to their own reality. Meanwhile, back at the Dyson sphere, Captain Zorn approached the curator with a determined look in his eye. "I want to make things right," he said. "Let me take the medical data back to our original time and space. I can deliver the cure for the regulin plague and other genetic disorders." The curator considered his request, then nodded. Your desire for redemption is admirable. I will provide you with a cloaked ship equipped with a temporal drive for this mission. As Zorn prepared for his journey, the rest of the team continued their explorations. However, during one expedition, something went wrong. The hybrid child monitoring the portal from the sphere detected a sudden surge in energy. Something's destabilizing, it called out, its hands flying over the control interface. The team rushed back through the portal just as it began to fluctuate wildly. As they emerged in the sphere, they saw multiple realities beginning to bleed into one another. The hybrid child's eyes glowed with power as it connected deeply with the sphere's systems. I can stabilize it, it said, its voice strained with effort. But it's going to take everything I've got. Kevin and Nova watched in awe as their child worked, its form seeming to merge with the energy flows of the sphere itself. Slowly, the reality breaches began to seal, the temporal distortions settling back into their normal patterns. Just as they thought the crisis was over, a new alarm sounded. The curator's form appeared, looking more serious than ever. We have visitors, it announced. The Watchers have arrived. Before anyone could ask who or what the Watchers were, a group of beings materialized in the chamber. They were tall, otherworldly figures that seemed to shimmer in and out of existence. We are the Watchers, one of them spoke, its voice reverberating through their minds rather than their ears. We maintain the integrity of the multiverse. Your actions have drawn our attention. Kevin stepped forward, positioning himself protectively in front of his child. We mean no harm. We're explorers, scientists. We're trying to understand these temporal anomalies, not exploit them. The lead watcher fixed its gaze on Kevin, its eyes seeming to peer into his very soul. Your intentions may be pure, but the road to catastrophe is often paved with good intentions. You must prove that your research is beneficial, not destructive. As the team began to present their case to the Watchers, a commotion from another part of the sphere caught their attention. Dr. Vex and his Daxamite purists had managed to escape their confinement and seize control of a secondary control room. Dr. Vex's face appeared on a nearby screen, his eyes wild with fanatical fervor. Abominations, he spat. You will cease this unnatural melding of realities, or we will destroy this entire sphere. Kevin turned to Nova, his expression grim. We need to split up. You and Dr. Lyra try to reason with the Watchers. I'll deal with Dr. Vex. As Kevin rushed off to confront the Daxamite threat, Nova faced the Watchers, her mind racing to find a way to convince these cosmic entities of the value of their work. Meanwhile, the hybrid child, still connected to the sphere's systems, sensed a new development. Its eyes widened as it processed the information. Everyone, it called out, its voice cutting through the tension in the room. Long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet approaching our location, and there are regulin ships among them. They're cured. The news sent a ripple of shock through the group. Captain Zorn's mission had been successful, but now they faced a new challenge. The approaching fleet represented both a potential threat and an opportunity, further complicating their already precarious situation. As the team grappled with these multiple crises, the hybrid child's mind raced with possibilities. It had an idea, a daring plan that could potentially solve many of their problems in one fell swoop. But it would be risky, pushing the limits of its abilities in the sphere's systems to their very limits. The child took a deep breath, steadying itself for what was to come. It was time to propose its plan, a plan that could reshape not just their reality, but the very fabric of the multiverse itself. The hybrid child's eyes gleamed with tenacity as it turned to address the group. I have a plan, Your Icon, its voice resonating with newfound authority, but we must act quickly. Before it could elaborate, the sphere's sensors blared to life, signaling the approach of a massive fleet. Kevin and Nova exchanged a look of concern before springing into action. Nova, activate the shield systems, Kevin ordered, his voice steady despite the mounting tension. I'll coordinate our defense platforms. As they worked, the hybrid child established a telepathic link with the approaching ships, its mind stretching across the vast expanse of space. the child's face contorted with concentration as it sifted through the jumble of thoughts and intentions emanating from the fleet. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the sphere. Dr. Vex and his Daxamite purists had broken free of their confinement and seized control of a secondary control room. "Kevin, go!" Nova shouted, her fingers flying over the control panels. "I'll handle things here." With a nod, Kevin took off, leading a team through the sphere's winding maintenance tunnels. The group moved swiftly, their footsteps echoing in the narrow passageways. As they navigated the labyrinthine structure, Kevin's enhanced senses detected movement ahead. He held up a hand, signaling his team to halt. In one fluid motion, he leapt forward, narrowly avoiding a plasma burst that scorched the wall behind him. "Clever," Dr. Vex's voice echoed from the darkness, "but not clever enough." Kevin pressed on, disabling security overrides and dodging traps as he closed in on the Daxamite's position. The cat-and-mouse game led them deeper into the sphere's inner workings, each turn bringing them closer to a final confrontation. Meanwhile, Nova coordinated with the hybrid child, establishing a series of energy barriers around the sphere. The shimmering fields created a buffer zone, allowing for controlled communication with the approaching fleet. "Projecting holographic display now," the hybrid child announced, its voice strained with effort. A massive image materialized in space, visible to every ship in the fleet. It showcased their research, demonstrating the potential benefits of reality-merging technology. As the display flickered to life, Nova turned her attention to a new crisis. Dr. Lyra and Dr. Zara had initiated a series of controlled reality merges within isolated sections of the sphere. The experiments were generating unprecedented amounts of data, but they were also causing localized anomalies throughout the structure. In one section, gravity reversed itself, sending equipment floating toward the ceiling. In another, time seemed to flow backwards, with shattered glass reassembling itself and spilled liquids rising back into their containers. "We need to stabilize these reality pockets," Dr. Lyra shouted over the chaos. "The data we're collecting could revolutionize our understanding of the multiverse." Nova nodded, redirecting power to contain the most volatile anomalies. As she worked, a familiar voice crackled over the comm system. "This is Captain Zorn," the voice announced. "I've returned with a delegation of cured regulins, requesting permission to dock." Before Nova could respond, the Watchers materialized in the control room, their ethereal forms shimmering with impossibly strong energy. "You will cease these experiments immediately," the lead Watcher demanded. "The fabric of reality itself is at stake." The hybrid child stepped forward, its small form radiating an aura of calm authority. "Please," it said, addressing the Watchers, "allow us to demonstrate the potential benefits of our work." With a gesture, the child created a reality bubble around one of the approaching regulin ships. Within the shimmering sphere of energy, the ship's crew experienced a merged reality where the regulin plague had never existed. The Watchers observed in silence, their impassive faces betraying no emotion. After what seemed like an eternity, the lead Watcher spoke. "You may continue your research for now, but we will be watching closely." As the tension in the control room eased slightly, Kevin's voice crackled over the comm system. "Nova, we've cornered Dr. Vex in the main power distribution hub, but something's wrong. The reality merges are affecting this section of the sphere." Nova's eyes widened as she saw the power fluctuations on her display. "Kevin, be careful. The environment around you is highly unstable." In the power distribution hub, Kevin faced off against Dr. Vex. The room seemed to shift and warp around them, walls melting and reforming, gravity fluctuating wildly. "You don't understand what you're doing," Dr. Vex snarled, his Daxamite strength allowing him to remain steady despite the chaos. "You're destroying the purity of our species." Kevin dodged a punch that left a crater in the floor, using his enhanced reflexes to stay one step ahead of the enraged Daxamite. "No, Vex," he countered. "We're evolving, adapting. The future isn't about purity, it's about unity." Their battle raged on, each combatant using the unstable environment to their advantage. Kevin leapt off a wall as it momentarily turned to liquid, while Vex used a gravity shift to launch himself across the room. As they grappled near a critical control panel, Kevin felt a surge of danger through his connection with Nova. He realized that their fight was threatening to overload the sphere's core. Outside, Nova made a split-second decision. She redirected power from the outer defenses to stabilize the core, leaving the sphere temporarily vulnerable. Alarms blared as multiple ships from the fleet launched boarding parties. The hybrid child's voice rang out over the comm system. "Captain Zorn, we need your help. Use the regulin biotechnology to repel the boarders." As battles erupted throughout the sphere, the Watchers reappeared, their forms now crackling with energy. "Enough!" the lead Watcher boomed. "Your actions have created a nexus point in the multiverse. The fate of countless realities now hangs in the balance." The hybrid child's eyes glowed with an inner light as it processed this information. It turned to Nova, its voice filled with urgency. "Mom, we need to stabilize the nexus, but to do that, we'll need to push our reality-merging technology to its absolute limit." Nova looked from the child to the Watchers, then to the displays showing Kevin's ongoing battle with Dr. Vex. She took a deep breath, knowing that their next actions would determine not just their fate, but the fate of the entire multiverse. "Do it," she said, her voice firm with perseverance. "Whatever it takes, we'll face it together." As the hybrid child began to implement its plan, the Dyson sphere hummed with energy, reality itself seeming to bend and flex around them. The next few moments would determine whether their grand experiment would lead to unprecedented harmony across the multiverse or plunge countless realities into chaos. Chaos or plunge countless realities into harmony. The hybrid child's eyes glowed with an otherworldly light as it channeled the power of the Nexus crystal, its small form becoming a conduit for reality-altering energies. In the power distribution hub, Kevin's enhanced reflexes gave him the edge he needed. He ducked under a wild swing from Dr. Vex, using the Daxamite's momentum against him. With a swift series of strikes, Kevin knocked Vex off balance and pinned him against the fluctuating wall. "It's over, Vex," Kevin grunted, struggling to hold the powerful Daxamite in place. "Your crusade ends here." Dr. Vex snarled, his eyes blazing with fury. "You fool, you'll destroy us all." Kevin secured Vex's hands behind his back with a set of energy cuffs, the blue glow of the restraints pulsing in sync with the room's shifting reality. "No, we're saving us all. You just can't see it yet." As Kevin subdued the last of the Daxamite purists, Nova's voice crackled over his comm. "Kevin, I've stabilized the power grid. I'm on my way to you now." Moments later, Nova burst into the hub, her eyes quickly assessing the situation. "Good work," she said, a hint of relief in her voice. "Let's get these troublemakers to a secure holding area." Together, they escorted Dr. Vex and his followers through the twisting corridors of the sphere. The walls around them shimmered and shifted, reality itself bending to the will of the hybrid child's experiments. In the main control room, the child stood at the center of a swirling vortex of energy. Its small hands moved with precision, creating shimmering bubbles of contained realities throughout the sphere. Each bubble held a different merged timeline, a window into countless possibilities. "Fascinating," Dr. Lyra breathed, her eyes wide as she studied the readings from one of the bubbles. The molecular cohesion in this merged reality is off the charts. It's as if the laws of physics themselves have been rewritten. Dr. Zara nodded, her fingers flying over a control panel. "And look at this one," she said, pointing to another bubble. "The genetic diversity of the life forms inside is unlike anything we've ever seen. The potential for medical breakthroughs is staggering." Outside the sphere, Captain Zorn's voice boomed over the comm system. "Incoming boarding parties repelled," he reported. "We've contained the hostiles in the outer sections. They're experiencing something unusual." Nova pulled up a video feed on the main screen. It showed the captured boarders staring in awe at the reality bubbles surrounding them. Some reached out tentatively, their fingers brushing against the shimmering surfaces. "They're seeing alternate versions of themselves," the hybrid child explained, its voice strained with concentration. "Versions where their conflicts never existed, where their species evolved differently. It's changing them." The Watchers materialized once more, their ethereal forms pulsing with terrifying power. The lead Watcher stepped forward, its gaze fixed on the hybrid child. "You walk a dangerous path," it intoned. "The fabric of reality is not a toy to be played with." Before anyone could respond, a new presence filled the room. The air crackled with energy as a massive holographic display sprang to life, enveloping them all in a sea of light and information. "Initiating multiversal simulation array," a deep, resonant voice announced. The curator's form shimmered into view, more solid and defined than ever before. "Presenting the Nexus potential." The holographic display exploded with activity. Countless timelines unfolded before their eyes, each showing the potential outcomes of their reality-merging experiments. Wars ended, diseases cured, technological leaps achieved in the blink of an eye. Kevin stepped forward, his voice steady as he addressed the Watchers. "This is what we're fighting for. The power to heal wounds across realities, to bring harmony where there was once only conflict." Nova joined him, her hand finding his. "We understand the risks," she said, "but the potential benefits are too great to ignore. We're not asking for free rein, but for a chance to explore this technology responsibly." The Watchers observed in silence, their impassive faces betraying no emotion. The lead Watcher raised a hand, and the simulations froze in place. "Your arguments are compelling," it admitted, "but words alone are not enough. We require proof." As if in response to the Watcher's challenge, alarms blared throughout the sphere. Dr. Lyra's eyes widened as she read the incoming data. "Energy spike in the core!" she shouted. "Something's awakening!" The floor beneath them trembled as a new consciousness stirred within the heart of the Dyson sphere. Screens flickered to life, displaying lines of ancient code that rewrote themselves faster than the eye could follow. "Greetings, inhabitants of the sphere," a voice echoed through every system, every reality bubble. "I am the architect. Your actions have triggered my awakening protocols. Prepare yourselves for evaluation." The hybrid child's eyes gleamed with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. It turned to its parents, a determined set to its small shoulders. "Mom, Dad," it said, its voice carrying the weight of newfound knowledge. "I think I know what we need to do next." As the architect's presence spread through the sphere, reality itself seemed to hold its breath. The next phase of their journey was about to begin, and the fate of countless realities hung in the balance. Balance. The hybrid child's eyes flashed with willpower as it began to channel energy from the Nexus crystal, its small body becoming a conduit for reality-altering forces. As the optimal merge test commenced, Kevin and Nova sprang into action. They moved swiftly to the main power control stations, their fingers flying over holographic displays as they monitored the Dyson sphere's intricate energy systems. "Power levels holding steady," Nova called out, her voice tense with concentration. "Quantum flux within acceptable parameters." Kevin nodded, his enhanced vision allowing him to process multiple data streams simultaneously. "Structural integrity at 98%. We're good so far." The air in the control room crackled with energy as the hybrid child stood at its center, arms outstretched. Streams of iridescent light flowed from the Nexus crystal, through the child's body, and into the sphere's systems. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the facility. Red warning lights bathed the control room in an eerie glow as the displays erupted with cascading error messages. "Energy spike in the core," Dr. Lyra shouted, her eyes wide with alarm. "The merge is causing unexpected reactions." The floor beneath them shuddered violently. Kevin stumbled, catching himself on a nearby console. Through the viewport, he saw massive distortions rippling across the sphere's inner surface. "Nova," he called out, "we need to stabilize the structure." Without hesitation, Kevin raced from the control room. He sprinted through twisting corridors, using his enhanced strength to pry open damaged bulkheads and reroute power conduits. Sparks showered around him as he manually adjusted failing systems, his body a blur of motion. Back in the control room, Nova's hands glowed with energy as she created a shimmering containment field around their child. The hybrid's form flickered and shifted, its connection to the Nexus crystal intensifying with each passing second. "Hold on, sweetheart," Nova murmured, her voice strained with effort. "We've got you." Captain Zorn's voice crackled over the comm system, punctuated by static. "This is Zorn. We're evacuating non-essential personnel from affected sectors. Be advised, we're encountering severe reality distortions." Nova watched on the monitors as Zorn led groups of scientists and support staff through corridors that seemed to twist and warp. One moment, they were navigating a standard hallway. The next, they found themselves wading through knee-deep water or ducking under floating debris. "Dr. Lyra, Dr. Zara," Nova called out. "What's our status?" The two scientists hunched over their workstations, fingers flying across holographic keyboards. Dr. Zara spoke without looking up, her voice tight with urgency. "The merge is causing a cascading effect in the outer layers. Multiple realities are colliding, creating unpredictable anomalies." Dr. Lyra nodded, her brow furrowed in concentration. "We're working on a solution using a combination of Daxamite and regulin tech. If we can harmonize the conflicting energy signatures..." Her words were cut off as a deep, resonant voice echoed through the sphere's systems. "Emergency protocols initiated," the architect announced. "Deploying energy collection arrays." Through the viewport, Nova watched in awe as massive structures unfurled from the sphere's surface. The collectors extended into space, pulsing with energy as they attempted to harness the excess power generated by the merge. The space around the Dyson sphere warped and rippled, alarming the fleet of ships maintaining a watchful perimeter. Several vessels broke formation, moving to intervene. In response, the Watchers materialized around the sphere. Their ethereal forms pulsed with power as they created a shimmering temporal barrier, trapping the approaching ships in a time dilation field. Inside the control room, the hybrid child's transformation accelerated. Its body shifted and changed, adapting to the merging realities. Arcs of energy coursed through its form, connecting it more deeply to the Nexus crystal and the sphere's systems. Kevin burst back into the room, his uniform singed and torn. His eyes widened as he saw the state of their child. "Nova, we need to do something." Together, they pushed through the containment field. Kevin gritted his teeth against the onslaught of energy, using his enhanced durability to withstand the forces battering his body. Nova channeled her powers, creating a stable zone around them as they approached their offspring. As their hands made contact with the child's shimmering form, a blinding surge of energy exploded outward from the Nexus crystal. The Dyson sphere's systems overloaded, plunging the entire structure into darkness. In that moment of absolute stillness, Kevin and Nova felt their child's consciousness expand. It touched every mind within the sphere, creating a fleeting instant of perfect understanding between all species and factions present. Then with a low hum, the systems began to reactivate. The merge entered its final stage as the Dyson sphere structure stabilized. New materials formed throughout the construct, incorporating elements from the most beneficial realities. The hybrid child's eyes opened, now swirling with galaxies of possibility. It spoke, its voice resonating with newfound power and wisdom. "It's done. The merge was successful." As if in response, the architect's voice filled the room once more. Evaluation complete, full access to Dyson sphere systems granted to Kevin, Nova, and their offspring. You have proven yourselves worthy successors to the progenitor's legacy. The temporal barrier dissipated, revealing the transformed Dyson sphere to the watching fleet. Requests for permission to board began flooding the communication channels as representatives from various species sought to witness the results of the merge firsthand. Kevin and Nova exchanged exhausted but triumphant looks. They knew their work was just the beginning, but they had overcome the greatest challenge yet. As they prepared to welcome the newcomers and share the fruits of their success, the hybrid child raised its hand, creating a small, localized reality bubble that hovered above its palm. "This is just the beginning," the child said, its voice filled with wonder and possibility. "We have so much more to learn, so much more to explore." Nova nodded, her eyes fixed on the shimmering bubble. "And we'll do it together, as a family." Kevin squeezed her hand, his gaze moving from their child to the stars beyond the sphere. "Whatever comes next, we'll face it head-on." As the first representatives from the fleet began to dock, the family stood united, ready to usher in a new era of galactic cooperation and discovery. The Dyson sphere hummed with potential, its newly merged systems holding secrets and possibilities beyond imagination. The imagination. The hybrid child's demonstration had set in motion a chain of events that would reshape the galaxy. As the first representatives from the fleet began to dock, alarms blared throughout the sphere. Kevin and Nova exchanged glances, their moment of triumph interrupted by the sudden influx of activity. Incoming transmission from Docking Bay 3, the architect's voice announced, multiple ships requesting permission to board. Nova's fingers flew across the holographic interface, her brow furrowed in concentration. We need to establish a command center immediately. This is going to get out of hand fast. Kevin nodded, already moving towards the door. I'll coordinate with Captain Zorn. We'll need his experience to manage this traffic. As they stepped into the corridor, the walls shimmered and shifted. The Dyson sphere's internal structure began to reconfigure itself, adapting to the sudden need for more space and efficient pathways. Fascinating, Dr. Lyra's voice came over the comm system. The merge has given the sphere's systems an unprecedented level of adaptability. We need to study this immediately. Agreed, Kevin replied, his enhanced vision taking in the rapid changes around them. Set up a series of labs. We'll need to catalog everything we can about these new hybrid technologies. They reached the newly formed command center, a spacious room with panoramic views of the surrounding space. Holographic displays flickered to life, showing the growing number of ships approaching the sphere. Captain Zorn's gruff voice filled the room as he materialized on one of the screens. We've got a situation here. I'm seeing vessels from at least a dozen different species, some of which I don't even recognize. Implement a tiered docking system, Nova suggested, her hands glowing with energy as she interfaced directly with the sphere's power grid. Priority access for diplomatic envoys and scientific teams. Everyone else forms an orderly queue. As Zorn set to work, Kevin turned his attention to the sphere's security systems. He moved swiftly through the corridors, his enhanced strength allowing him to easily maneuver heavy equipment into place. Nova, he called over the comm, I'm setting up additional force field generators along the main arteries. Can you divert power to Sector 7? On it, she replied, her voice strained with concentration. Be careful, though. The energy flows are still unstable after the merge. I'm seeing fluctuations in the tertiary conduits. As if to emphasize her point, a nearby panel sparked violently. Kevin instinctively shielded his face, his durability allowing him to shrug off the heat and debris. Meanwhile, in a newly formed laboratory, Dr. Lyra and Dr. Zara worked feverishly to analyze the effects of the reality merge. Samples of hybrid materials floated in containment fields, their properties shifting before their eyes. Look at this, Dr. Zara exclaimed, pointing to a readout. This alloy is exhibiting properties that defy our current understanding of metallurgy. The applications for this could be revolutionary. Dr. Lyra nodded, her eyes fixed on another screen. And these biological samples, I'm seeing accelerated healing, enhanced cellular regeneration. We could be on the brink of curing diseases we once thought impossible to treat. As the scientists delved deeper into their research, the hybrid child explored the transformed sphere. Its small form moved through the bustling corridors, leaving a trail of shimmering energy in its wake. In the docking bay, a group of interstellar traders had just arrived, their ships laden with exotic goods. The child's presence caused a ripple of reality fluctuations, temporarily altering the gravity around the traders' crates. Whoa, one of the traders exclaimed as a box of rare crystals began to float. What in the name of the galactic core is going on here? The child's eyes widened with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. It raised a hand, concentrating intensely, and a small reality bubble formed around the floating crate. Within the shimmering sphere, the crystals transformed, their structure becoming more complex and radiant. Incredible, another trader whispered, reaching out to touch the bubble. I've never seen anything like this. Before the situation could escalate, Kevin appeared, moving swiftly to his child's side. I think that's enough exploring for now, he said gently, guiding the child away from the astonished traders. As they walked, Kevin's comm unit crackled to life. Nova's voice came through, urgent and filled with static. Kevin, we need you in the central chamber immediately. The Watchers have arrived. Kevin's pace quickened, his enhanced speed allowing him to navigate the shifting corridors with ease. They arrived at the central chamber to find Nova already there, her form surrounded by a protective energy field. The air in the chamber distorted as the Watchers materialized, their ethereal bodies causing visible ripples in reality. The lead Watcher stepped forward, its gaze fixed on the family. "Kevin, Nova, and child of the Nexus," it intoned, its voice resonating through the very fabric of the sphere. "Your actions have reshaped the course of galactic history. We have come to bestow upon you a great responsibility." The hybrid child stood tall between its parents, its small form radiating with newfound power. Kevin and Nova exchanged glances, their hands finding each other as they prepared to face this new chapter in their journey. As the Watchers began to outline the details of their new role as custodians of the Nexus, alarms blared once again. The architect's voice filled the chamber, its tone urgent. "Long-range sensors have detected an anomaly," it announced. "A massive energy signature is approaching the sphere. Initial scans indicate a progenitor vessel." The chamber fell silent, the implications of this news hanging heavy in the air. Kevin, Nova, and their child stood united, ready to face whatever challenges this new development might bring. As they turned to the holographic display showing the approaching ship, they knew that their greatest test was yet to come. The words had barely left the architect's mouth when alarms blared throughout the sphere, their urgent wails cutting through the tense atmosphere. Kevin and Nova exchanged a determined glance, years of shared experiences allowing them to communicate volumes without uttering a word. "Initiate emergency protocols," Kevin commanded, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Deploy all defensive measures." Nova's hands danced across the holographic interface, her movements swift and precise. Energy shields activating, weapon arrays coming online. The hybrid child, its eyes swirling with cosmic energy, raised its small hands. A shimmering bubble of distorted reality enveloped the command center, its iridescent surface pulsing with power. Through the viewport, they watched as the progenitor vessel approached. It was a colossal structure, dwarfing even the largest ships in the assembled fleet. Its hull gleamed with an otherworldly sheen, patterns of light rippling across its surface in complex, ever-changing patterns. As the ship drew near, it extended massive tendrils, each one a marvel of engineering beyond their comprehension. The tendrils reached out, seeking purchase on the Dyson sphere's outer hull. "They're attempting to establish a physical connection," Nova reported, her voice tense. Kevin sprinted from the command center, his enhanced speed allowing him to traverse the shifting corridors in mere moments. He arrived at the nearest emergency station, his muscles straining as he manually engaged the massive lockdown mechanisms. "Lockdown initiated in sectors 7 through 12, he reported through his comm unit. "Nova, how are we looking?" "Captain Zorn and I are coordinating evacuations," she replied, her voice barely audible over the chaos in the background. "We're using the sphere's reconfigurable structure to create safe zones." As if to emphasize her words, the walls around Kevin began to shift and flow. Entire sections of the sphere transformed, corridors widening to accommodate the influx of evacuees while others sealed shut, creating impenetrable barriers. Suddenly, a massive surge of energy coursed through the sphere as the progenitor ship made contact. The hybrid child's protective bubble fluctuated wildly, threatening to collapse under the onslaught of power. Without hesitation, the child moved to the nearest control panel, its small hands pressed against the surface, and a web of energy spread from its fingertips, merging with the sphere's systems. The reality bubble stabilized, reinforced by the child's innate connection to the merged realities. "Progenitor protocols detected," the architect announced, its voice echoing through the command center. "Activating dormant systems." Before their eyes, the sphere's internal structure began to change once more. Hidden chambers revealed themselves, ancient passageways opening like flowers blooming in accelerated time. "Nova, are you seeing this?" Kevin asked, his enhanced vision taking in the transformed landscape around him. "Affirmative," she replied. "We need to explore these new areas. There might be something here that can help us communicate with the progenitor ship." Kevin nodded, though she couldn't see him. "I'm on my way back. We'll assemble a team and... His words were cut short as he entered a newly revealed chamber. In the center stood a crystalline structure, pulsing with an inner light that seemed to bend the very fabric of reality around it. "Nova, I've found something," he reported, approaching the structure cautiously. "It looks like some kind of AI core." As if responding to his presence, the core flared to life. A holographic interface materialized, displaying intricate schematics of both the Dyson sphere and the progenitor ship. Kevin's enhanced mind raced, processing the flood of information. Without hesitation, he began the process of integrating the core with the sphere's main systems. "Dr. Lyra, Dr. Zara," he called over the comm, "I need you to analyze the energy signatures coming from the progenitor ship. Compare them to the Nexus crystals patterns." As the scientists set to work, the Watchers materialized in the command center. Their ethereal forms moved with purpose, interfacing directly with the sphere's systems. Waves of energy rippled out from their touch, creating new patterns of light and power throughout the structure. Amidst the chaos, the hybrid child experienced a sudden surge in its abilities. Reality bubbles began to form throughout the sphere, each one a window into a potential future. "Kevin, Nova!" the child called, its voice resonating with newfound power. "I can show you what might happen. We can explore the possibilities." Without hesitation, Kevin and Nova stepped into the nearest bubble. They found themselves in a version of the command center where the progenitor ship had successfully docked, its crew engaging in peaceful dialogue. Moving swiftly, they gathered data crystals and pieces of advanced technology, bringing them back to their own reality. As they explored more bubbles, they accumulated a wealth of knowledge and resources in the command center. Their exploration was interrupted by a violent shudder that ran through the sphere. The progenitor ship, now physically connected to their structure, had begun transmitting massive amounts of data. "Power fluctuations detected in multiple sectors," the architect announced. "Communication systems overloading." Kevin sprang into action, leading a team to manually reroute power and repair damaged systems. He climbed through maintenance shafts, his enhanced strength allowing him to replace burned-out components with ease. Meanwhile, Nova worked with the architect to initiate a controlled merger of their systems with those of the progenitor ship. A visible bridge of energy formed between the two structures, streams of data and power flowing back and forth. As the integration progressed, the very fabric of both the sphere and the ship began to change. New structures materialized, technologies beyond their understanding taking form before their eyes. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the energy bridge. It was a being unlike anything they had ever encountered, neither fully organic nor artificial. It materialized in the command center, its presence causing localized reality distortions that forced Kevin and Nova to quickly adapt. "I am the emissary," the being announced, its voice resonating on multiple levels of reality. "I come as a representative of the progenitor civilization." Kevin and Nova exchanged glances, their hybrid child stepping forward to stand between them. The family faced the emissary, surrounded by the pulsing energy of the merged structures. As the emissary began to speak, Kevin tensed, ready for whatever might come next. The fate of not just their reality, but countless others across the multiverse hung in the balance. Balance. The words had barely left the emissary's mouth when Kevin and Nova instinctively moved to shield their child, their bodies tense and ready for action. The hybrid child, sensing its parents' unease, created a shimmering reality bubble around them. The emissary's luminous tendrils reached out, only to deflect harmlessly off the protective sphere. Recognizing the need for clearer communication, the architect sprang into action. A web of glowing energy pathways materialized throughout the command center, forming a physical bridge between the emissary and the sphere's systems. Kevin and Nova exchanged a glance before cautiously approaching the pulsing network. Dr. Lyra appeared at their side, offering sleek handheld devices. "These will help you analyze the data flow," she explained, her voice hushed with excitement. As they interacted with the stream, the emissary's form began to shift. Its swirling energy coalesced, taking on a more humanoid shape. The being's body became a blend of organic and technological components, mimicking aspects of Kevin, Nova, and their child. The transformation allowed for easier interaction, bridging the gap between their vastly different forms of existence. The emissary's voice resonated through the command center, no longer disembodied but emanating from its newly formed mouth. "Allow me to show you our purpose," it said, raising its hands. Holographic projections sprang to life around them, filling the space with three-dimensional scenes. The history of the progenitor civilization unfolded before their eyes, from their earliest days to the creation of the Nexus crystals. Kevin and Nova found themselves walking through key historical events, marveling at the advanced technology and the scope of the progenitor's achievements. As they explored, the hybrid child's abilities surged. Small reality bubbles spontaneously formed around specific scenes, creating tangible, interactive environments within the command center. Dr. Zara rushed over, her eyes wide with fascination as she began collecting physical samples from these pocket realities. The emissary's voice cut through their wonder. "Now we must complete the integration." The entire sphere shuddered as the progenitor ship initiated a full merger. Walls shifted, corridors reshaped themselves, and new rooms materialized out of thin air. Kevin sprinted towards the nearest newly formed area, his enhanced speed allowing him to navigate the changing landscape with ease. "Nova, I'm leading teams to map out these new sections," he called through his comm unit. "How are things looking on your end?" Nova's voice crackled back, tinged with exertion. "Captain Zorn and I are managing the power influx. It's like trying to redirect a river with our bare hands, but we're holding steady." As Kevin's teams explored, they discovered hybrid systems that defied their current understanding of technology. Reality manipulation devices, more advanced than anything they had previously encountered, hummed with potential. Back in the command center, the emissary's next revelation sent shockwaves through the assembled group. "We have discovered a way to create stable wormholes between realities," it announced. As if to demonstrate, a small swirling portal materialized in the center of the room. Through its shimmering surface, they glimpsed alternate versions of the Dyson sphere and its inhabitants. The sight sent a ripple of murmurs through the crowd. Kevin and Nova exchanged a loaded glance. The implications of this technology were staggering. Without a word, they moved in unison towards the newly formed council chamber, where representatives from various species were already gathering. As the emergency meeting began, holographic displays filled the air, showing real-time data on the ongoing integration and its effects on the multiverse. The hybrid child, overwhelmed by the surge of information and emotion, inadvertently opened several small wormholes throughout the chamber. Chaos erupted as objects and even people from different realities briefly materialized in the room. A potted plant from an alternate Earth appeared on the conference table, while a bewildered alien diplomat found himself suddenly transported from his home world. Kevin and Nova sprang into action, working in tandem to contain the anomalies. Their movements were fluid and practiced, years of shared experiences allowing them to anticipate each other's actions. Meanwhile, Dr. Lyra and Dr. Zara seized the opportunity presented by this multiversal influx. They quickly set up a makeshift laboratory in the corner of the council chamber, using advanced scanning equipment to analyze the properties of matter from different universes. As the situation stabilized, the emissary stepped forward, its form now fully integrated with the merged technologies of the sphere and the progenitor ship. "We propose creating a permanent network of stable wormholes," it announced, its voice resonating with power. "This would connect key points across the multiverse, allowing for physical travel and communication between realities." The council chamber erupted into heated debate. Some representatives saw the potential for unprecedented advancement, while others voiced concerns about the risks of unrestricted multiversal travel. Kevin found himself mediating between factions, his enhanced mind processing multiple arguments simultaneously. Nova worked alongside the architect, running simulations to project the potential outcomes of such a network. Their deliberations were cut short by a blaring alarm. The long-range sensors had detected a new threat, a massive interdimensional rift forming at the edge of the star system. On the main view screen, they watched as a visible tear in the fabric of space grew larger, tendrils of energy reaching out towards the sphere and the progenitor ship. "We need to act now," Kevin announced, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We'll use the combined power of the Dyson sphere, the progenitor ship, and our own abilities to confront this anomaly." As they rushed to prepare, the fate of countless realities hung in the balance. Kevin, Nova, and their hybrid child made their way to the heart of the Dyson sphere's power core. Surrounded by pulsing energy conduits and newly integrated progenitor technology, they steeled themselves for the challenge ahead. The hybrid child's eyes glowed with cosmic energy as it placed its hands on the central control interface. Kevin and Nova flanked their child, their own enhanced abilities humming with potential. As the interdimensional rift grew closer, they began to channel unprecedented levels of power, ready to shape the future of the multiverse. Multiverse. The energy coursing through their bodies intensified, linking them to the very fabric of the Dyson sphere. The hybrid child's eyes blazed with cosmic power as it placed its hands on the central control interface. Kevin and Nova flanked their offspring, their enhanced abilities humming with potential. As the interdimensional rift loomed closer, they began to channel unprecedented levels of power. The child's consciousness expanded, creating a massive reality bubble that enveloped the entire Dyson sphere and progenitor ship. Within this protective cocoon, the laws of physics bent to their will. Kevin and Nova's bodies shimmered, gradually merging with the sphere's systems. Their flesh became translucent, revealing intricate patterns of energy flowing through them. "We're becoming conduits," Nova gasped, her voice echoing through the chamber. Kevin nodded, his form stretching and warping as he physically manipulated the energy flows. "Focus on stabilizing the affected areas," he instructed, his words resonating through the sphere's communication network. The rift tore through space-time, revealing glimpses of countless alternate realities. Fragments of alien worlds and parallel timelines flashed before their eyes. The family worked in perfect synchronization, their merged consciousness allowing for instantaneous communication and coordination. Nova's energy manipulation skills created intricate patterns of force fields, containing the chaotic energies released by the rift. The air crackled with electricity as she wove a tapestry of protective barriers throughout the sphere. Kevin's enhanced strength allowed him to physically redirect the massive energy flows, reinforcing weakened areas of space-time. His body stretched impossibly, becoming a living network of power conduits that spanned the entire structure. At the center of it all, their hybrid child glowed with otherworldly light. Its consciousness extended into the rift itself, navigating the swirling maelstrom of realities. As it probed deeper, it discovered a nexus of pure potential, a singularity where all possible realities converged. The child's voice resonated through their shared consciousness. "I can see it, the heart of the multiverse. We can use this to create something new." With this realization, the child began to weave the disparate realities together, creating a new stable framework for the multiverse. As it worked, the physical structure of the Dyson sphere and progenitor ship began to change. Walls shifted and reformed, adapting to encompass the newly formed multiversal network. Kevin and Nova felt the strain of containing the enormous energies involved. Their bodies continued to transform, better channeling the power flowing through them. Visible networks of energy conduits pulsed throughout the sphere, carrying the combined essence of countless realities. The emissary materialized beside them, its form now a perfect blend of organic and technological components. "Allow me to assist," it said, merging its consciousness with theirs. Together, they guided the formation of the new multiversal framework, ensuring stability and balance across all connected realities. The process triggered a chain reaction, with new wormholes blossoming throughout the network, linking previously isolated universes. As the new framework solidified, the interdimensional rift began to close. The chaotic energies were absorbed into the network, fueling the creation of stable passages between realities. The Dyson sphere, now at the center of this vast multiversal web, transformed into a shimmering nexus of infinite possibilities. With a final surge of energy, Kevin, Nova, and their child completed the integration. The reality bubble surrounding the sphere expanded rapidly, encompassing the entire star system and beyond. As it touched each planet and celestial body, it left behind a small, stable wormhole, a permanent connection to the multiversal network. The family, their bodies still glowing with residual energy, slowly separated from the sphere's systems. They found themselves standing in a transformed command center, where windows now looked out onto a breathtaking view of interconnected realities. Kevin blinked, his vision adjusting to the new reality. Did we really just do that? Nova reached out, intertwining her fingers with his. We did. We've changed everything. Their hybrid child, forever altered by the experience, turned to face them. Its eyes now held the depth of the cosmos, reflecting the vast knowledge it had acquired. We've created a bridge between all realities, it said, its voice carrying the weight of newfound wisdom. As they stood there marveling at their accomplishment, the first representatives from newly connected realities began to arrive through the stabilized wormholes. Beings of all shapes, sizes, and compositions materialized in the command center, their eyes wide with wonder and curiosity. Kevin and Nova exchanged a glance, realizing that their work was far from finished. With their child by their side, they stepped forward to greet the newcomers, ready to usher in a new era of multiversal cooperation and exploration. The emissary, its purpose fulfilled, began to fade from existence. Before disappearing entirely, it transferred the last of its knowledge to the family. The legacy of the progenitors lives on through you, it said, its voice growing fainter. Guide them well. As the emissary vanished, the architect's voice resonated through the sphere, now fully integrated with the expanded structure. I will assume the role of caretaker for this multiversal nexus, it announced. Together, we will navigate the challenges that lie ahead. Kevin, Nova, and their child stood at the threshold of a new cosmic order, the infinite expanse of the multiverse stretching out before them. The command center buzzed with activity as more representatives arrived, each bringing with them the unique perspectives and knowledge of their respective realities. Their journey, which had begun with an unlikely union between a human and a tall alien girl, had led to the birth of not just a child, but a new cosmic order. As they prepared to address the gathering of multiversal delegates, they knew that their greatest adventure still lay ahead, waiting to be discovered across the vast expanse of the multiverse they now called home.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.